Four wide out for Oates. Fires, intercepted by Carlos Pope. Pope down the sideline. The defensive captain is going to score. Touchdown, Nebraska. Oh, what a start for the Black Shirts. 39 yards, touchdown. First interception.
But I also want us to enjoy this, I also want us to enjoy this. We're obviously having this opportunity because of Colorado and what they bring. But our fans are here because of us. And so we'll play for our fans, and we'll play for our families. We'll play for each other and play for the state of Nebraska and all the Husker fans out there and see what happens.
ABC Sports College Football and the College Football Association present the Big 8 blockbuster. Number 3, Colorado. Number 2, Nebraska. Right now in Lincoln, number 2, Nebraska. Number 3, Colorado. And there are some who feel the winner of this game could move into that number 1 position. Hello, everybody. Keith Jackson. Behind me, Memorial Stadium, University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Today, the Cornhuskers will have their 200th consecutive home sellout. It's a string that goes all the way back to 1962. That's a long time. A couple of good reasons for it. One, they win a lot, and the people come to support their team. Today, the unbeaten Colorado Buffaloes are thundering across the plains to take on the undefeated Nebraska Cornhuskers. So it reminds me of that old Roger Miller lyric, "You can't roller skate in the buffalo herd." Well, I would suggest to you that the Cornhuskers intend to find out. And the Huskers are now threatened. First down at the Buffalo 14-yard line. Into the middle, Schlesinger, touchdown. Let's hear one for the big old fullbacks. Right for a pass, Handley wide open, all thrown, touchdown. Tight end. Colorado defense kept creeping in. All of a sudden, there it was. You've got Amon Reed. Get used to the name, folks. There's only a freshman. First down for Nebraska. The ball is at the 43 after the short punt. And here goes Frazier down the line, delivers the ball to Green. Green's on the corner, going down the sidelines. He's on his way. He's got a touchdown. 57 yards. They knew it was coming, and they still couldn't stop it. Nice and obvious and 65 seconds left. Ball is knocked down, and it's intercepted by Sue. Sue at the 15, at the 10, at the 5, and he will score.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Good morning! It's a Football Friday Fiesta ahead of the best game in college football this weekend, which happens to be inside of the borders of the state of Nebraska, where 1.9 million people reside, and more will show up to watch Nebraska and Colorado. Hey, I might be a little fully hussed there.
Let's go!
Well, that was loud.
Sorry.
Even I am in a fantastic
Jimmy, nicely done. Oh, my gosh. Bam, bam, bam. Holy moly. Fully husk. How about the crowd at those games?
And the bands, everything just sounded perfect.
I thought it was AI Keith Jackson there for a minute.
It's a good idea, though.
But listen to those crowds and those highlights, and we are back, baby. It is Colorado on the eve of Nebraska and Colorado, where college football matters again. Some might say it's a game of inches, depending on what night of the week you play. But that's why football is so great. And the pageantry, the balloons are back, the banner is back. Who will be back on campus? We have lots for you. So welcome in, everybody, on a Football Friday Fiesta.
I just saw Keegan's comment. I don't think I can put that up, but I really want to.
Southwest Florida Dave says, don't know if I want to cry or break blank.
That's what we need right now. At 6:14 on the eve of Nebraska, Colorado, those thoughts should be going through your head right now.
I thought this would be that it's shorts and hoodie weather. Oh, this is like Nebraska fall wardrobe. Yeah. I am in heaven. And now I'm fully husked. Oh, damn. There's going to be a good football team won last night.
Yeah.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl.
I'm going to tell you.
Great way to start the season.
The emotion, the competition, the enjoyment of the game of football, whether it be at the high school level, the college level, or the pro level, everything pales in comparison. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying because that game came down to a game of inches. And always remember, kids, don't ever grow your feet bigger than like 10.
Yeah, when they say, hey, you got enough space in your toe box with the shoe?
That's why when my fantasy football, I always draft players that are size 10 and under. For things that could happen.
For reasons like that, yes.
So welcome, everybody. We are off and running. We have plenty to discuss on what's going to go on in Lincoln around college football. But there is no denying I'm going to stand on this hill. I don't care if I die on this hill because we're all going to die eventually. And if we die, we die. Is that this game between Nebraska and Colorado is the best game of the week in college football. All of you pregame shows, all of you national people that are in Ann Arbor to take on Texas, Michigan, that game's going to be a blowout. Mm-hmm. You want storylines, you want pageantry, you want anger, you want a place where beers are going to have a bad day tomorrow in Lincoln. Nebraska, Colorado is exactly for you, and we will break down all the different angles that we have not yet gotten to this week.
I driving in this morning. It's been building all week, I think, for everybody. And then you have the long weekend, so then you get back into it on Tuesday. Everybody's trying to, I guess, do a little inventory of where they are at the week and all that. So you knew maybe it was a little more slow going for everyone. Man, it hit me this morning. Just I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait to see everything between the matchup itself, but then also a lot of the external factors, a lot of the circus, as we've liked to refer to it as, that will be here later on this afternoon, which will be great.
We know where
Circus
they're going.
is coming this afternoon.
The circus
they're playing
will
the game early.
Well, no, the circus itself will make
right.
Circus being the Colorado traveling party that will be making itself in town in La Vista, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
You can't confirm nor deny that.
No, we've already confirmed it.
Well, we pretty much
were you
did.
not?
Well,
were you not part of that?
Although
wow.
I was one who got it, but there was a theory when I was leaving. See you, Josh said no, it's not there. And I said, well, there's a football block. He said, well, that could be for the Cherry Creek team that's playing Millard North. I'm like,
wouldn't that backfire if someone went to keep these kids awake?
And it's the poor Cherry Creek High School football team that's playing Millard North over at Buell tonight. I don't know. It's just this game. This is where maybe a lot of fans will have some sort of a feeling like a player tomorrow, because it is going to, thank God there's some good football before, but it is going to be agonizing waiting for that kickoff.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Western Illinois and
it's huge.
Indiana, Duke, Northwestern.
That just means more.
Yeah.
It just means more out there.
We have a great Thursday night game last night between Kansas City and Baltimore. My quarterback is out there waddling and just dropping dimes.
He does waddle.
That's okay.
We've all done that waddle.
Hey, that's okay. But all I could think about last night on the final play is Baltimore is driving, and Lamar Jackson has the ball in his hands, and that last drive was the full Lamar Jackson experience. But all I could think about, because I like music and I like tying it into sports because I think that's how it should be. I mean, Joe West once cut a country album and he was in sports. Mm-hmm. Is all I can think is one toe over the line, sweet Mahomes. One toe over the line.
In Canada, it's a touchdown.
Sitting in Arrowhead watching
Oh, yeah.
the Chiefs win. One toe over the line. What an ending to that game last night.
They were
It
gonna
never
go for two.
and you have to.
I know, but that was the thing I wanted to see it end. Like, okay,
Yeah, you had to go for two. You can't when you get a chance to beat Kansas City,
Mhm.
especially at Arrowhead, you can't exhaust it. Now, I got to tell you, my exchange. So I didn't sleep much last night. I mean, how could you sleep after that game? But my group text message of friends who the ratio is more hate the Chiefs than like the Chiefs,
Yeah.
which is perfectly fine. There should be hate. There should be love. We should all have opinions, okay?
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell you how to feel. But I got to tell you, after that game ended the way it did, is one of my buddies in my text chain was like, I'm going to tell you, I think this is the deal. First of all, I was doing a high school game, so I didn't get to see the start of the game, but he's blowing me up about the game is rigged, and all of a sudden it's back again because Kansas City is not getting called for penalties, and they let Spagnuolo call a timeout, which the refs had an awful night last night.
Mhm.
Both sides, they had a rough night. I
Mid-season
did
form.
respond. I said, so Roquan Smith on the sidelines? I got nothing until the end of the game, and he goes, you know what I'm thinking here? He goes, do you know this for a fact? And if you don't know this for a fact, you should not comment on this. He's going to be out of our text chain. He goes, do you think the company that put down the lines at the NCAA women's basketball tournament that were so off did the lines at Arrowhead last night? I was like, come on, man.
Wow.
What are you? Hey, we in your head. We in your head. I was like, no, come on, man. But there were a lot of comparisons to Kevin Durant in 21 against the Bucks, where
Mhm.
his big foot was on the line. But what a game last night! That's the NFL.
Oh, you said
Wow.
we're back once you're getting those texts again. Summer is over.
No, Kansas City is back. Remember, they only scored 27 or more 3 times last year.
Mhm.
It took them forever. They got a track team. You know what is also back? I think Baltimore is a poorly coached team. I think John Harbaugh gets by a Super Bowl, and he's a very likable guy.
Mhm.
I think John Harbaugh is not a very good coach.
Yeah.
I don't think John Harbaugh should be mentioned among the best in the NFL. And last night exposed him, but it also exposed Lamar Jackson doesn't have the it factor. I mean, I know he said after the game, I don't know about that, him being out of bounds. But look at the throws. There are 3 throws on that final drive that are going to absolutely haunt him. But it's the roller coaster of Lamar Jackson. He has throws on that drive that you're like, that's why the guy is one of the best quarterbacks. And then at the end, in nut-cutting time, he cannot make a play. He doesn't have the it factor that my guy that's 15-3 in the postseason and has never finished shy of the AFC Championship game has. But what was Baltimore doing, first of all, during key portions of that game with clock management, but also, how about spiking the football?
Yeah.
At the end, how about spiking the football to maybe squeeze a couple of more plays out? What were they thinking?
I want to. You brought up the whole Lamar Jackson experience in the final drive, which is probably about as spot on and the biggest microcosm of his career as well, because you get the flash with the head scratchers, and I mean the pass that damn near would have at least tied, possibly given him a chance to win the game. It was a great throw. Did the things that Lamar Jackson does athletically to buy himself time to make that throw, but the throw before, the previous play before, where you've got a guy wide open in the back, and he admitted afterwards, he didn't even see him. That ball, it wasn't like it was thrown off target. So I don't know, what was it? Was he thrown to, I don't know if he's trying to throw to Andrews, because the only thing that would have made sense there, the only other receiver that was in that vicinity was double covered. So I almost wish
brutal misses.
I almost wish he would have said, yeah, I threw behind, as opposed to I didn't even see him until the very end. And so those miscues right there, this is, and it's amplified when you have Patrick Mahomes on the other side, who
He impacts it.
Yes,
He impacted kickoffs last night.
Well,
I'll tell you about that, how I feel about the kickoffs.
you watch Patrick Mahomes when he's given a little bit extra, when coverage breaks down, and the way that he's able to still deliver and still be able to do the smart thing, but also be able to make you the highlight throw. But the trust factor with Lamar Jackson, you guys know how much I love golf. It's like the Jordan Spieth experience. you know you're in for a ride. You're going to see some amazing things, and then you're going to see some things that absolutely make you cringe. And this is why I'm convinced, and I don't even know if this is a hot take anymore. This is why I'm convinced that there is a ceiling to where he goes when it comes to, hey, put the team on his shoulders, take us to a Lombardi trophy. There are things that I just don't think he can deliver. He's going to give you a lot of moments. He's going to give you reason to believe that he can do that. But I thought that drive, it sums up why Lamar Jackson isn't there and why I don't know if he ever will be.
Well, there's a part of, I mean, I got to take some hits. I don't know if he can sustain himself for 17 games taking hits like that. He also, Derrick Henry didn't give him anything. A lot of those guys on the offensive line were playing for the first time last night. But they had the Kansas City defense gassed. That's why I was excited for Harbaugh when, before they showed the replay where the touchdown didn't stand. I mean, Kansas City's defense was gassed. And going for 2, I thought that's the way to do it. That's what you got to. That's the Mahomes impact. You cannot play in overtime with Mahomes. Right. But Lamar, the whole Lamar Jackson experience was on that final drive.
Yep.
And I bet he had nightmares last night of a couple of throws to guys that were wide open in the end zone. But it's also a weird game because I don't think Baltimore played well. I thought Kansas City played okay. They played a little bit better than okay, but it always felt like Kansas City should have been up more. When it was 13-7, it felt like it should have been 20-7.
Yeah, you said for a couple field goals there too instead of points. But according to Isaiah Likely, hey, Kansas City played their best game and Baltimore didn't play good at all. So good luck in the playoffs.
I mean, stop friggin' talking. I mean, the facts. I got facts about Colorado and stop talking. Okay, there are facts out there, and I'm not going to overreact to this game. I think both Baltimore and Kansas City will be in the postseason. I think Baltimore is a good team, but when it mattered, I mean, it's clutch. It's the clutch genie. It's scoring at the end of the game. It's that it factor, making plays. You can be the MVP, and he rightfully is. And I like Lamar Jackson, and he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. But at the end of the game, are you making plays to win a football game? And it's because of you. And you don't need anybody else. There's a guy in Kansas City that does that. The problem with what's going to happen to Lamar Jackson and other quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now, because this happened during guys that were in the Tom Brady era, you are in the era of Patrick Mahomes. And so he's in the way.
Yeah.
Look at how many really good quarterbacks during the lengthy career in New England of Tom Brady that you would say, man, should have won some championships. I mean, for God's sake, Eli Manning won 2. But a lot of good quarterbacks came up empty. They're in the era of Patrick Mahomes. And until you beat him in the postseason, I mean, you are SOL. And last night was an opportunity for them, but on that final drive where they had a lot of things going for them, they couldn't complete it. And I get it. It's a game of inches, and it was a toe. And you know what? If he comes down, then it's going for 2, and Baltimore maybe wins the game.
Tom Dempsey would have scored a touchdown there.
They didn't.
If you know,
they
you
didn't.
know.
But that game last night is such a showcase for the NFL, and I don't care who's playing, Baltimore, Kansas City, but it helps to have stars, and Lamar and Patrick are definitely stars. That's like a group watch. Regardless if you root for either team, you watch it because of the NFL. Boy, oh boy, do they have in one game with 271 to go, including a game in Brazil tonight, they might have an officiating problem.
Oh,
those guys were really bad.
And we're back.
Well, it wasn't, but we saw this last year too, where whether it was what you're trying to control from, we saw, there's no question, Roquan should get flagged for that, and protecting the quarterbacks. And we've seen that become a thing where, and this maybe goes to your buddy's point of, it's rigged in everything when it comes to handling the quarterback situation. But even that's been inconsistent now too. And I remember this last year, watching certain quarterbacks take shots, and you're like, okay, that actually looks obvious, and it doesn't get called.
I was really surprised that play on the sidelines didn't get called.
And that's where a lot of people are like, well, it's Mahomes, so that's going to get called for sure. It doesn't. So even the guys that we always put into the category of, well, now they're the elite quarterbacks protecting the shield as far as the product and the quarterback, that's always a given. Even that is completely 50-50 right now. We've saw even last year, saw a little bit of last night too, the early starts on the left or right tackles.
I will tell you, I think it was a huge advantage that Kansas City didn't have the ball first.
That's up.
Because Baltimore had the ball first, and they had told every team in the offseason and in training camp that they are going to call that.
Oh, okay.
And so, first game out of the box, Baltimore is first on offense.
Yep.
And what do? It turned into a ref show right away, and there were flags everywhere. There were, 4? I mean, Ronnie Stanley, he's seeing flags in his sleep. And that discussion centers a lot around Jawan Taylor. But there's also, we went into this last year because this was a thing with Kansas City, is where you line up, where you lean forward instead of leaning back. That the TV angle isn't the greatest, and it's not consistent across the board. I truly believe that was a huge benefit to Baltimore having the ball first instead of Kansas City, because Kansas City would have been called for those penalties.
Well, and later in the game, they're doing that, and it wasn't being called. What
is Baltimore doing? Because after the game, they were talking on the NFL Network that was discussed in the offseason with all the teams, and when refs went to training camps, they focused on it.
That's a good point.
But yet Baltimore comes out of the gate and they get called for that.
Yeah, and you're right.
Instead of adjusting. But it was kind of it was a little bit ridiculous. But again, if that's Kansas City that has the ball first, I guarantee that Taylor's got a couple of flags against him.
I'm trying to remember the year remember when they did a heavy emphasis in the offseason of offensive pass interference. And now you have me thinking about that Thursday night game, and I'm totally blanking on who it was, but I now remember in the first quarter, it became a flag show with just basically it was chicken fighting between the defender and the wide receiver, yet it was the offensive player that I think it was something ridiculous. Like in the first half, there might've been 3 or 4 OPIs alone. And it was normal stuff that you typically saw every weekend. And you're right. The point of emphasis, it is hammered on in the first half. And then it's like, it's almost like they go to the locker room like, all right, we're good. Okay, cool. Now let's let the game happen. But then you get inconsistent and you don't know what, that's the thing though. Then you don't know what you can get away with.
I will say this as a Chiefs fan. Kansas City was fortunate.
Sure.
Okay, because they called it 3 of the first 7. Oh, and also Brett Veach just fleecing the rest of you in the NFL to get Xavier Worthy.
He's damn good.
Oh yeah, he's going to be fun.
But 3 of the first 7 plays, there is that penalty, and you're right. There's no consistency because later in the game, you can count on 2 hands. Hey, I'm not going to overlook that.
But it
Kansas
also
City didn't get called for it. But also, I want people to understand that there is the camera's at an angle.
Yes.
So there is. Okay, just saying.
Well, and that's saying. If you're a line judge and you're on the sideline, what you're seeing compared to what you get in the overhead angle, it is. But no, there was, and this isn't just Kansas City because it would have been early fourth or late third.
Nick, you know what it is? It's football with the offensive tackles in college or pro trying to get a head start.
Yeah, and I get it.
Kick step.
I get it. And the kick step, and now when you think about the guys that you have at tackle, their length. So it's super obvious when they try to get that big foot back to start their momentum. And I mean, it's probably less notable, not that you can see a lot of these guys playing left or right tackle at 6 foot or below, but it probably wouldn't be as obvious as that as well. So you got big dudes that are doing that as well. But that's the thing is I get it because of the edge rushers that we see at this game and how seasoned they are. You're trying to gain an advantage. The problem is, if that advantage exists, whether it's being called or not, it has to be consistent. Because if I'm an offensive tackle, I want to know if I can continue to get away with that because I'll be damned if I'm going to hurt our guys' drive. Say it's 3rd down and 5 and it's a passing situation. I know their guy's coming hot. And so I want to get an early step. Hasn't been called all day. All of a sudden it's called. Bam. And then I'm getting bitched out by my coaching staff and my huddle because that happened. Yet, or the opposite of it's being called. You saw the previous drive. It wasn't called, but you're still thinking, man, I can't do that. And then you get beat when you could have given yourself a little bit of a slight advantage, protect your guy, and continue either for a scoring player or, get a first down. So I understand the frustration on the tackle side of it too, but more than anything, and we talk a lot about this with strike zones too. It's fine if you're going to be either overbearing on it, like when I was talking about the OPIs. There's that thing of, all right, here's what I know I can get away with and what I can't get away with. And that's going to be the case for 4 quarters. Not necessarily, okay, if I'm getting the low strike being called, all right, I'm going to hit that zone all night long, and it's not going to change. It's not going to be a floating strike zone. All of a sudden, you're not getting that call, especially in high leverage situations. And then that's where hitters and pitchers get frustrated. Same thing in football. I think of receivers and defensive backs, especially when you're just having normal contact back and forth, and then all of a sudden they start zeroing in on the defensive side, or they start zeroing in on the offensive side because it's been a point of emphasis.
Love the NFL.
But gosh dang, it was fun at the end.
Oh, yeah. I was like, are you kidding me? That this game, that Kansas City, with, again, a little poor clock management at the end, that's an Andy Reid problem.
Thank God Mahomes caught that one ball.
They let that was a hell of a play.
I said it was over in the third quarter, so I was impressed it still became a game.
They give the ball back to Baltimore, and I was like, well, the script writers are off to a great start. All right. On the Football Friday Fiesta ahead of Nebraska and Colorado tomorrow night, 6:30 on NBC. Mike Tirico loves himself some Dylan Raiola.
Oh, yeah. That was kind of nice. Between the promos and then the actual live promo.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Two of some of the best quarterbacks in the game.
Brett Ciancia will join us coming up at 7:30.
Oh, that's right.
Brett is in Dallas this morning. He will be in Lincoln tomorrow night. So our friend from Pick Six Previews will join us at 7:30. Lee Sterling with some picks on week 2 and the first week of the NFL. Don't forget, you got Green Bay and Philadelphia playing tonight. Pick your fighter. Would you rather have Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts? So Lee stops in at 9. Mike Schaefer is by. Not only a huge game for Nebraska, but a huge recruiting day with a lot of dudes on campus, including one dude in Dawson Merritt. What's that noise I hear? Do I hear flip watch? Flip watch? So the 4-star linebacker from Kansas City who recently picked Alabama over Nebraska, but the family loves Nebraska. He's going to be on campus. Welcome to the fam, many will say. You know that he has stopped talking to Alabama recruiting writers for about a month now.
Oh,
that's always a sign that he ain't going to Tuscaloosa.
Mm-hmm.
So he is on campus, among others. Shave will stop by at 9 to update the list. And then Matt Virzel, who will be part of the celebration of the 94 team that will be honored tomorrow night in Lincoln. And we will make Matt Virzel pick his favorite national championship team. Was it the 94 team? Was it the 95 team? We will put him on the clock.
Hey, I'm here to listen to that.
Well, because I think people do that.
I do it.
Yeah.
We all do it as fans. You have multiple championships now.
I can tell you, when I was in school, 3 national championships.
Nice.
That's why I stayed in school an extra year.
Can't blame me.
Why'd you leave?
But we do this. We do pick, and you could say, well, I got all. No, you have to pick. We do pick like our favorite national championship team. And a lot of people, when that's Osborne's first title, they're like, 94, that's like the best thing. And you beat Miami.
Yeah, they slayed the dragon.
And you're like, damn, that 95 team is, they're filthy. That's my favorite. And then 97 comes along and you're like, you know what? I like a team that has moxie that wins on a kick 6 in Columbia. Yeah. Go 90. Go Scott Frost. Go T.O. to go out. We should make people choose their favorite team, their favorite national championship team.
And they took to our other thing we're doing
today.
People
in the 70s, well before we knew anything about the game of football, that it was oblong and not circular.
It's interesting in those national.
The 70s teams.
It's interesting in those national championship games. Mm-hmm. I'd have to look at the stats right now because you had Danny Werfel in 95. You had Peyton Manning in 97, and you had Frank Costa in 94.
Pretty much the same guy.
Isn't it funny that this is maybe how great, if you want to make any nod to the 97 team, they made Peyton Manning look like Frank Costa. Just going to say that.
Is that a hot take?
They made Peyton Manning look like Frank Costa.
And now his production company is named after our fair city.
People like, Frank who? Yeah.
It's interesting that you rattled those off, and only one of the 3 was a Heisman Trophy winner, and people probably would pick the wrong guy.
Yep. They'd be like, oh, yeah, Peyton, right?
Nope. Frank Costa.
Yep, it was Frank Costa.
I mean, 90s was a different beast.
Hey, if only Rashaan Salam would have fallen down. People forget Danny Werfel won the Heisman Trophy in 96.
That's right. Oh, I'm trying to think of.
Just think of the most obscure, like in the last 15 to 20 years of Heisman Trophy winners that you're like, really?
Jason White.
Like if somebody woke up today and you're like, hey, back in 2003, there was a guy named Jason White.
Yeah. Like,
won the Heisman Trophy, and you'd be like,
oh, yeah, he's my neighbor. No, not that Jason White.
You'd be like,
And then you find out it is that
Really?
Jason White. Nice guy.
It might be.
Really?
Really nice.
Oh, the guy that's got the insurance agency down the street.
Mr. White?
Yeah,
I love
him.
Mr. White.
Or you could say, hey, there's a guy named Chris Wenke.
Yeah.
Who was in his 42nd year of college.
Mhm.
He stayed around long enough to win a Heisman.
Yep. And was also getting senior rate on the golf course.
There was also a time when the Heisman Trophy did not go to freshmen.
Hmm.
Well, we have a Heisman moment tomorrow night in Lincoln.
Oh.
Just a little tease.
Nash Hutmacher.
But we will need to talk about this.
Interception, touchdown.
What team is being hyped too much in this game? And Nebraska is a 7.5-point favorite. Because we'll give our predictions, and I mean mine is out there, and I've already said Nebraska wins 34-21. I'll explain why I think that. So they cover the spread, and it's an impressive victory. But I'm talking to you all of people that have gone as the week's gone along. I know this is probably more of a Nebraska hasn't done things when they're on the stage and they have the opportunity, so we're going to build up Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
But why is Colorado hyped?
3 reasons. Prime, Shedeur, Travis Hunter.
Can I just insert this, and then we got to go to break? We can discuss this on the other side. And remember, we're talking about a football game tomorrow night that features a team that last year went 4-8 against a team that went 5-7.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the team that went 5-7 at least beat a team that went to a bowl game.
True.
Do you know
Northwestern?
Do you know the all hypers? They went 0-6 against teams that finished with a record of 500 or better.
All hypers.
I'm just spitting facts.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is a Nebraska thing that it is, man, they're going to kick me again. My cod piece is worn out. The museum made me give it back. That is, and this is my sense, and I could be completely off. And then there's a lot of times I am, that the Colorado aura has started to build. I don't know. Colorado was 0-6 against teams that were 500 or better last year. Not saying Nebraska was any much better, but they did beat Northwestern. People forget. And I just want to start with that because there's a lot of hype out there. You would, if you thought what you thought, you would say, "Oh, yeah, Colorado, man, they're banging."
Oh, I found one person on the Colorado side of its take very interesting when it comes to the coverage of Colorado football. That essentially a lot of the things that we showed up on last Friday talking about Colorado, how essentially they look like, and you know what? I'm not always the biggest Brady Quinn fan, but he said it's exactly the same thing. And that is, tell me what's different about Colorado from a year ago. Yet, in a very closely fought game against North Dakota State, it is amazing to me that a lot of the moments for Colorado, or that doesn't look better moments for Colorado, got completely glossed over with. That was a really hard fought win where Colorado showed a lot of moxie in that game. I was reading.
So you should give, this is what they should do. They should give Shedeur the Heisman because he's able to draw attention away from the flaws of Colorado.
Yeah, you mask it with that. And it goes back to my original, the reason they're being hyped is for 3 reasons alone. Prime, because he will portray it that way. But I mean, right after the game, at the post game, they're asking about the lack of success running the football. He completely dismiss that and talk, did you see what we threw for? So then you can begin to spin that positive part of it, which he's not wrong about how good the passing game can be with him, but isn't that a problem when you can't run the football? So he completely glossed over it, and then that becomes the narrative. Then there's the Travis Hunter part of it, where you have a guy that misses literally 2 snaps in an entire game, 2 snaps of both offense and defense, misses 2 snaps, and that's it. And that obviously writes itself. And then there's Shedeur, which we all know the very good of what he can do, but also what happens when things are taken away from him. We don't know that answer right now. And when we saw him up against it a little bit last year, he pressed too. So it's not like he's been flawless even in defeat. So, but again, it starts with Prime because he spins it that way. And if you're going to be a part of the coverage, either you go along with that narrative or you're essentially blackballed from it.
This is what I think. I asked the question when we were at the end of the show the other day. I said, do people still make T-shirts? And there are some funny T-shirts that are out there. Thank you, Mr. Rezak, for sending me that one. This is, in my opinion, if I'm making a T-shirt, this is a what you stand for game. Mm-hmm. Would you rather be the Harlem Globetrotters or the Washington Generals? The Harlem Globetrotters look really, really good and they always win. Or would you rather be the Washington Generals that show up, they're competitive, but they never win? What do you stand for? Would you rather be the Globetrotters or the Washington Generals?
I would rather be the team that wins all the time.
Thank you. We're off and running. It's a Football Friday Fiesta. Brett Ciancia, Lee Sterling coming up in the 7 o'clock hour with all of you as we count down to Nebraska, Colorado. We might even release balloons in the studio or have Jimmy suck helium and do his update at 7.
That would be funny.
That would be good.
Balloons are back.
Helium is too.
Where'd you guys hear that first?
Drugs.
Banner coming back. Bud Crawford leading Nebraska on the field through the tunnel walk. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that would be kind of cool.
Hey, he made a reference to him yesterday, so you never know.
It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Football Friday Fiesta ahead of Nebraska, Colorado. The NFL is off and running. Last night, Kansas City holds on. They beat Baltimore to kick off the 2024 season of the quest to win 3 straight championships.
On their way to 20-0.
I would be blown away.
So would the rest of the league.
And it would be rigged.
Yeah.
There'd be all kinds of breakup rumor documents and all kinds of things trying to derail that thing.
Controversy. Brittany Holmes was not in the Taylor Swift suite last night.
Yeah,
Good. Kick her out.
They're in a tiff.
But the field looked great.
It did.
That field looked awesome.
Can't
I don't know
wait
if
to
it was
see
my
it in
TV or the actual field in Arrowhead.
Oh, did you get a new TV?
I don't know. The field like popped.
It looked good on mine too.
Yeah, the color was the red. The red really did.
I was
pop.
like, grass looks really good.
Yeah.
Think about Memorial Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 6:51. One thing we're doing today ahead of Nebraska, Colorado is we are allowing you, if you would like to come on this radio station, on this show, and treat the Nebraska-Colorado game as a wrestling promo, from Roddy Piper to Ric Flair to
Hulk Hogan,
anybody in between, you got to bring it because people are going to judge.
Make
but
us
we
happy.
will allow you, without swearing, or at least back-to-back swear words. We can get away with one swear word. That's what they told me upstairs.
We can dump, but you need to have one word.
So this is how we're starting this morning. 951-1620 on the 42-degree The Source hotline.
Lielia's out.
We no Hal McRae. You cannot go Earl Weaver.
I wanted Earl Weaver.
But if you would like to recite the Al Pacino speech, you can do that as well. We start with Ryan. Good morning, Ryan.
Morning, boys.
How you doing?
I am. I'm ready.
Let's go.
You're setting the tone, Ryan. Don't disappoint us.
Just treat me like I'm Mean Gene Okerlund asking you a question. All right.
I got something for you.
All right. Bring it.
So this Nebraska program has been on hard times lately, and you know what hard times create? Hard players. And there are a lot of hard players waiting in the bowels of Memorial Stadium. So, Coach Slime, what you gonna do, brother, when the Husker maniacs run wild on you? So I ask you, Gary the Body Sharp and Nick the Macho Man Handley, what is the name of that stupid buffalo in Colorado?
Ralphie?
It doesn't matter what his name is because he's a Rudy Poo candy ass. Coach Slime has his scriptures and catchphrases. Well, I have a scripture. It's GBR 3:16, and it says, "We just whipped your ass," because the Raiola bloodline is sitting at the head of the table, and that's the bottom line because Coach Rule said so.
Yes.
Thank you, boys.
Yes.
Ryan.
All right.
Nicely done.
Woo!
Nicely done, Ryan.
Very, very good.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter.
Ryan, give me a score for tomorrow.
34-27.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
My man, have a great Friday. Enjoy tomorrow.
All right, boys. Be good.
I'm really close to
Oh,
that
yeah.
one. I
Wouldn't it
like
be
it.
hilarious if he turned around and said, "Yeah, unfortunately, I have Colorado winning."
Yeah.
What?
That would be quite the heel turn.
Yeah, it would have been, yeah. But I got Colorado prevailing at the end. That was good. That was good. It was more of what he had to say, not necessarily how he said it.
He
if
had
that
good
makes
energy,
sense.
though.
Yeah, no, good enough energy, but he was very distinct and to the point. I loved it. I love the message.
The
more than
gauntlet
anything.
has been thrown down, but we have terrific listeners and commenters. So
Yep.
we have high hopes.
Just remember that if you fight for your dreams will fight for you.
Oh. Isn't Nebraska ball Mike supposed to be?
He will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
If he doesn't,
what I've got is 10,000 people that I wouldn't care if they lived or died. Be a football team from Colorado. If Triple H called into the show this morning.
Oh. Can we do we have some context?
I mean,
Shawn Michaels and I are from the same
the
town.
Colorado fan could be like Batista used to do this. Whenever he'd go heel against Cena, he would go, I look out in this crowd and all I see are dollar signs. If you were Colorado, that's what you'd be calling, right?
Yeah.
By the way, Travis Hunter, did you see his NIL deal yesterday?
Mm-mm.
United Airlines.
Oh,
Nice.
oh yeah.
Fly the friendly skies.
Was that new just this year? I thought
I think so.
there was something he was
They
doing.
made a
with
big
that last
announcement yesterday.
Okay, that must have been.
They're expensive. It's a good deal.
Travis Hunter going to be the best player that's played in Memorial Stadium since
Laveshka Chenault. No.
He's a dude. Like watching him. Like people get to see. If you didn't go to Boulder last year to see him in person, I don't know how he does what he does.
Thought you were going to say Deacon Hill, but
no. By the way, Deacon Hill scored a touchdown on a 24-yard touchdown run last week.
Yeah, how amazing was it? By the way, too. It was shades of Jared Lorenzen.
it was like Jamar Toombs.
It took a while.
It did take a while.
But you know what? I don't care. Here's the thing.
Keith Traylor against the
Here's
Jaguars.
the thing. When you're building up a football program or building up a body or you're trying to attain a goal, it doesn't matter how long it takes to get there. It's just if you get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Yeah.
Some of us like to go slow and enjoy it. Others like to go fast. You know what? I have noticed that when I go slow and I enjoy the spoils and the rewards, and then the ultimate reward, sometimes you got to work for it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It doesn't matter if Deacon runs a 6.4 40. If you can't stop him, you can't stop him.
Oh, there were a lot of things to be very excited about from the start of college football last weekend. But the fact that was one of our lasting images of the evening of the Big Deke getting in the end zone, it just put the perfect exclamation point
Just
on
hear
what
Madden
was
from the
going on.
replacements after that.
You get a fat guy dance, a fat guy spike, and a fat guy dance. It took every ounce of him. And I mean all those ounces to truck into the end zone too. I mean, it was, but damn.
I can't knock Deke. Deke got to the Big Ten championship.
He did.
Oh no, he'd be a hero.
Big Duke.
Yeah.
Like Kurt Phillips, those guys will always have a special place.
Mm-hmm.
They fought their way to get to the Big Ten championship game.
Kurt Phillips, who attempted, I believe it was just 10 passes. Oh, didn't have to attempt anymore.
Rough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like me on the video game. No need to pass.
All he had to do was, there's a jet sweep.
Yep, just make sure he had the pre-motion check.
Brett Ciancia, 30 minutes away. Brett is fired up because Brett will be in Memorial Stadium tomorrow night for Nebraska and Colorado. People are curious, how will Nebraska handle the moment? Why isn't anybody mentioning how will Colorado's offensive line handle the moment on a road game with noise?
Well, there's one guy who's unfazed on that offensive line. Said they will be unfazed on that offensive line.
I don't know. What's the old Mike Tyson line?
You have a plan until you get hit in the face.
Get punched in the face?
Yeah. The idea behind
there's some guys on both sides that haven't played in an environment like this. We have no idea how they're going to handle it. And you can't just say, we'll be fine.
Well,
dude, it's going to be a gong show. It's going to be really, really loud, and it will be an angry loud. It won't be, hey, let's try and just disrupt them. I mean, people will walk into that stadium tomorrow night with their balloons, and they will be angry.
Just start punching people.
Well, most of them will be people from their own fan base.
Yeah,
that would not be good.
We don't need no North Dakota outdoor game type stuff going on.
It was a friendly usher.
The offensive lineman, it was Justin Mayers, that's said, look, I can appreciate anybody who's playing down that card as long as they understand, hey, we got to be on point when it comes to communicating. But when he said, oh yeah, Coach Prime's got us ready, we're playing music and crowd noise during practice. If you think that's what you're going to have, okay, that's what you're walking into. Good luck.
That's an offensive line that is playing their second game together.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to play in that environment. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a given that they're going to have a couple of false starts.
I would think so. I would think there's going to be some stuff lost in communication too.
People don't know what it is. Even if you're a home fan, that's going to be an angry. Loud and angry, therapeutic.
Real
Sounds
quickly,
like my kind of people.
I want to go back to your question of, is Travis Hunter the best player at Memorial Stadium since
opposing player?
Yeah.
Opposing player.
Somebody said Chase Young.
Okay.
19.
Jason White. Boom.
I could have gone Nate Heibel.
It was Hibble. Was it Heibel? I thought it was Hibble. Yeah, because they went from Josh Heupel to Nate Hibble to Jason White.
That's the point.
And then there was Sam Bradford, who also won.
Yeah, yes, that is true.
All right. Jimmy's got an update
Yeah.
coming up next.
Billy
More
Sims
wrestling
told us.
promos. There are a couple of people that would like to call in that I don't know that would keep us on the air.
Oh,
But it's feel free. Anything goes today because it's
Could
Colorado.
they email it to us?
No, Jimmy. Nobody's going to email it so that you can read it.
Can I email the script?
Oh no, we would play it, but we'd be able to screen it.
Oh, email audio. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you meant
I just
email
want the
script.
entertainment.
Bob emailed in. What you've got is 10,000 people calling you an a-hole. Have a good show, guys. Jimmy's got an update coming up next.
Yeah, I don't know when that concert is either. We'll find out together. Because that's what we do. October? What year? Wholesome content alert. Frank Solich was back home last night at Omaha's Holy Name High School, where he was featured Thursday at the Holy Name Men's Club grand reopening of its alumni field house after a $3.37 million renovation. Hundreds of Holy Name alumni and supporters gathered for the celebration, as they should. The renovation was funded through the Restore the Glory Capital campaign, which launched in 2019. The fieldhouse was originally opened in 1950. It's been practically untouched until renovation began in January 2023, much like Missouri roads. Solich coached at Holy Name in 1966 and 67 before going on to coach at Lincoln Southeast High School and then, of course, to Nebraska, where you know the rest of the story. While Holy Name High School closed in 1989, save your Taylor Swift jokes, we don't care. The school continues to operate for kindergarten through 8th grade and hosts an after-school program in partnership, I almost said for the Big Ten, with the Hope Center for Kids. The renovated fieldhouse space features space for physical education, the school's after-school program, and a community room. Very cool. Harper Murray's 9 kills led a balanced attack for Nebraska volleyball in a sweep over the Citadel last night at Devaney. I wonder if on the scoring bug it puts the 4-1 Huskers started strong, never looked back, trailing for just 4 rallies the entire match. Nebraska posted 17 kills. It's a lot of death before suffering its first attacking error midway through the second set. They'll continue the Husker Invitational with the match against Montana State. You know them. Saturday, 2 p.m. The match will be televised for your tailgate by Nebraska Public Media and streamed on the Big as you pregame for tomorrow night's Big 8 Tackle Football Affair at Memorial Stadium, presented by your friends at Phillips 66, where life happens between empty and full. High school football tonight, Elkhorn South at Bellevue West, Fremont and Omaha and Westview, Cherry Creek, yeah, that Cherry Creek. Nick told you where their hotel is, so you can go honk the horn, keep those poor kids up. They're at Miller North at Buell, Kearney at Grand Island, Lincoln East at North Platte, Lincoln Northeast at Omaha. There's a lot of games. Look, if you're playing, you know who you're playing, you know where you're playing. Enjoy. It's going to be a great night. Fall weather has arrived for a weekend. College football. USC has retired the number 13 jersey of Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears Hall of Fame quarterback who spent 2 seasons with the program and won the 8th Heisman Trophy in Trojans history. The school made the announcement where else on social media, showing Williams' number displayed on the LA Coliseum peristyle among with its other Heisman winners. And a big congratulations to Reggie Bush, circa 2005, whose number 5 also was shown for the first time since his Heisman was reinstated in April. Yeah, we remember it was removed in 2010 because of some BS improper benefits, but now everyone gets paid, so it's okay. In the NFL, Chiefs superfan Xavier Babudar, almost said Babar, was sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison. So Steve DeBerg it is, without parole and 3 years of supervised release Thursday for committing a string of armed bank robberies across our great country. Babudar, widely known as Chiefsaholic, entered a plea deal in February in which he admitted to stealing more than $800,000 in 11 robberies across 7 states and laundering the proceeds through casinos. To be fair, he was just trying to afford concessions at an NFL game. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of bank robbery, 1 count of money laundering, and 1 count of transporting stolen property across state lines. Really, it just matters he's crossing state line road, so I guess that would matter.
He's also a fan of McCole Hardman.
Yeah. Steve DeBerg was tight. He had like a pin inserted in his thumb to play a game at Chicago in 1990s. Very gnarly to look at. Dressed head to toe in a gray wolf suit, Babudar became a staple at Chiefs games for years and was adored by fans at Arrowhead Stadium on social media. Of course he is, where he crafted a persona of a hardworking, generous bachelor. See, Taylor chose poorly. In court documents filed last week, prosecutors said he was able to attend Chiefs games and grow the Chiefsaholic persona because of his 16-month robbery spree. The moral of the story here is Roger Goodell has priced out fans so much they now have to resort to robbery and crime just to afford to go to a damn game. The Chiefs will likely honor him and his many accomplishments before renaming the field after him someday. And they won last night over Baltimore, picking up right where they left off on their way to another Super Bowl. Go Sports.
So there was another part of last night's game. Thanks, Jimmy. They showed like 3 Chiefs fans together. Have we as a country talked enough about the just bizarre story from last postseason where the 3 Chiefs fans were found frozen to death outside of their buddy's house?
Watch the games inside. It's cold.
Or the amputations that took place at that game too.
Well,
at the game.
Well, that was not good. But the 3 dudes that
I remember them.
Yeah. They were in the backyard of their buddy watching the game, and they died.
That's
Matt Rule tried to tell them.
Well,
if they die, they die. And they did.
But sometimes if you're going to die, like sometimes you do it to yourself. Like I would not mix fentanyl and cocaine and THC.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Good on you, man.
Yeah.
Do you know that
Chocolate
the
and peanut butter,
families?
yes.
So that was the toxicology report. I don't know why I thought this. When they were showing 3 fans, I'm like, was there ever a resolution to the 3 frozen chief fans that died in their buddy's backyard?
Yeah.
So they haven't. There's the family hasn't been told that there was a cause of death.
Really?
Yeah. Like I wonder. Like, is it a murder investigation?
Oh, is it an ongoing investigation that has? Okay, well, maybe that's it then.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you haven't heard anything, then it must be they can't comment. It's an ongoing investigation. And if it's been that long.
Have we seen Jackson Mahomes lately?
I mean, if you go back, this was a crazy story.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what the Chiefs have encountered. They had the Chiefsaholic.
Yeah.
They have their fans are losing digits.
Yeah, because
in
they're
the stadium
committed to the team itself and being there in person.
They got 3 guys in the backyard of a buddy's house, and next thing you know, they are dead.
They're now dead.
Cross them off. Then.
But yet we keep winning.
And that's the main thing here.
And this would be a bigger story, Gary, if they were losing football games, but they're winning.
You're right.
So
If this was
it's
the 89
overlooked.
Cowboys.
It's like, well, you know what? That's just the price of glory sometimes. You got to – sometimes people lose their lives, but the show goes on and the wins keep coming.
But hey, how about that Travis Kelce?
Hey, is there anybody
Top
out
of the
there that would like to watch NFL? I'm not talking about the emotion of the attachment to your alma mater. Would rather watch NFL football over college football?
Nope.
Why do you prefer college football over NFL football? And I'm emphasizing the football part.
I'm pretty close, actually. I think I like them equally. There was a time that I liked college football more because there was, and this was when I was young and naive, that they tried harder because they wanted to get the bag. They weren't currently getting the bag. And that the pros, once they get paid, well, they just kind of go through the motions because they're already paid. So it doesn't mean as much to them because they've already made it, which as you grow up and realize that is completely false. I would say this, and I always judge these things in person. Watching an NFL game in person, especially when you're close enough to really appreciate the talent on the field, is still on an island of its own, in my opinion,
the highest
compared
level
to
of the
college football.
So I like all kinds of football, and I thought about this last night after the game was over, and the rules wouldn't have impacted being out of bounds on the final pass. But what if college and the NFL had the same rules? Like, there's a lot of discussion today about the kickoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're ridiculous, but I also think the way that kickoffs are going to be handled in the NFL. So there were 11 kickoffs last night. 9 were touchbacks. The 2 returns were both nearly 30 yards. But I think the kickoffs are determined by the quarterback you're playing against. Okay, and what you're going to do with that. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson have an impact. You got to be thinking ahead. But what if college had the NFL kickoff? What if college and the NFL had the same rules? I like the type of football played. I like in the NFL better because the pace is better.
Yeah.
And it's just they are elite athletes, and
Right.
so it's crisper. I like the uncertainty, and you never know what's going to happen in college. But I like football, period. It just, these debates, when you get a football game where there's no college competition and you're watching that one, and you've watched the opening weekend of college, you're like, yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
It's completely different. But there's another part that yesterday that I did notice, and thank you, Bill Connolly, for pointing this out. The football to ads ratio, yes, is decreasing. So from week 1 this year in college football to last year, week 1, in terms of the plays, the average number of plays that were run per team, last year it was 66.8. This opening week, it was 65.1.
Okay.
So prepare yourself on NBC tomorrow night that the football to ads ratio will very much be decreasing. And I may tweet out again, do the TV timeouts seem a little bit longer?
Yeah.
But in the NFL, but the NFL, it doesn't appear that way.
It doesn't, no.
So
And
that's why I say the flow of the NFL game for a viewer on television is a lot easier.
Yeah, halftime is quicker. I mean, that's
really quick.
That's the thing I love about the NFL too, is that second half is lickety split. And even last night, for doing what we do and get up early, as I'm looking at the time I normally go to bed, knowing, hey, I'm going to be staying up a little bit later tonight, especially with the way that game was going. Before you know it, there's 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and we're still like right around the time that you would typically go to bed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, because it moves quicker between the timeouts. But I've said this for years. When you get to halftime, and whether you're watching Fox or CBS, and they're doing the round the horn highlights, before you know it, all right, we're going to take you back to your game. It's like, Jesus, halftime. I thought it just started.
5-minute
Where
local news
last
update.
week, and watching the broadcast in the Nebraska game, I felt that took forever. I was waiting for that game, the second half to resume. It felt like it took forever. So
You could knit a sweater in some of those timeouts last week.
yeah, the flow thing, I do think is a big part of it on how you watch it, because it has been, I think, well documented and talked about so much of the lag time, the downtime, and especially from when you go to kickoff to return to next possession, when you're changing possession, you get those 3 timeouts in that period. You notice the timeouts, but you really notice them when they're taking a little bit longer than what they used to, or compared to the other product. And the other part is, and we've heard Matt Rule talk about this week when it comes to the environment and the atmosphere. I think the thing people still are attracted to with college football is the venues. The venues, how loud, how big they are, you have many that are over 80,000. And especially in the SEC here in Lincoln, you're going to get those pretty much at capacity, especially on big games. When you go to Arrowhead, that's one of the biggest or second largest venue in the NFL. So that's right up there where that's a pretty good, but not largest SEC or college football venue too. So you get the fan engagement, you get, dare I say, the P word, pageantry. You get the nostalgia with the college football part of it. But as far as the game itself, though, on the field, and I've appreciated this in my last 20 years of living and seeing both on the field and close enough to where I can appreciate it, I still would take the NFL watching it in person.
I was blown away the first time I ever went to an NFL game that I got to stand on the field.
That is true. I've done that too.
I've stood on the field for both college and the NFL, and the gap is wide.
Mm-hmm.
Even the elite teams in college football, just the speed, the size.
Yep.
Even the bad teams in the NFL have dudes. That's what you realize. You're like,
that's why this whole I always ignore the
maybe I just
about,
answered your question.
Would the national championship in college football be the worst team in the NFL?
Yeah, it is kind of
but I wonder,
ridiculous.
What would the NFL and college look like if they played by the same rules?
So we're talking about time structures and everything.
Because look at how the college football changed with the first down.
Yep.
And stopping the clock like they used to.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if we're putting all of the parameters in there, including the time structure, I think from a standpoint of flow, where I think a lot of this begins, especially if you're watching it on TV as opposed to in person, I think it would be. See, when I say this, it makes it sound like, boy, the college football product is unwatchable, which is not the case at all. But I think it becomes, especially for the NFL fans there's diehard NFL fans that are like, no, college football just doesn't do it for me. I think a lot of that reason is because of the overall pace of it and the flow of it. So if you get just time structures alone, I think helps that big time. Now, as far as the overall play, we've seen this with the modern day athlete from the college game, then getting to the NFL game, is they're adaptable. So if you're going to throw in either more quick tempo type, again, parameters when it comes to, and the kickoffs as well, when you're going to have that element of where a return specialist now has a chance to really impact the game too, those parts of it become that much more, I think, attractive to your diehard NFL fans. Because think about it. If you are a diehard NFL fan, chances are you have a team that you're diehard about. You're not just wearing the NFL Rob Lowe hat, that you're going to see guys that are now going to truly impact your product because they're playing in basically every same situation, same scenario, same structures, that it becomes a lot more easy, I think, to tell, okay, the guys who stand out, how they're actually going to fare in the NFL a lot easier than you can right now.
I have a couple of friends who they do live around college campuses, but they would rather watch the NFL over college at any day.
It doesn't surprise me. I would have been surprised by that again, if I was in my early 20s or late teens, because, and it's different too for, say, a kid growing up in Chicago as opposed to a kid growing up in Nebraska, because that's what you're exposed to.
Put some respect on Northwestern. Put some respect on the team down south.
They're not even selling out Little Baby Stadium.
Illinois State was only down 6-0 to Iowa at halftime last week.
That is true.
I mean, you live in Chicago. Why can't you go to DeKalb, watch Northern Illinois play?
You go by normal and it says Illinois team.
Little John, not Little
John.
Little John.
What?
He says, does the NFL need to start discussing moving the first down line to 15 yards? Well, that would change a lot about the game of football. I don't think that is being discussed.
It's first down and 15. Yeah, no. This is when you have, and I wonder if he's making reference to that because of last night. Because you would have, now I want to go back and look how many conversions that you had at 3rd and 7 or longer last night between the two, because especially in the second half when Lamar Jackson and Baltimore had the ball, they were making longer conversions look pretty elementary at times. So I get the whole, hey, it's 10 yards not enough, but they're rare as far as the players that are involved, the gunslingers that are involved, or legs that are involved in that, when they can do that. I get the, we'll call that a knee-jerk reaction.
All right. Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Preview is coming up here in a little bit. I want to read this little bit of this email from Doug into his own inbox. Equitable Bank.
Only one can
where
do
they
that.
take banking personally. 142 years in business. He says Prime is a fraud and will be exposed Saturday. Deep down, he's an a-hole. He's not fooling anyone. He's made Colorado all about him and his sons auditioning for the NFL, not about building a long-term winning program. That's why I say, print me a T-shirt that this is the game of what you stand for. People are going to be stressed in this game. You don't build a long-term program and engage group of players by recruiting 95% of your players out of the transfer portal, only to run them out if they don't do well in the first year. I'm glad he's this way, as I don't want to see Colorado good. I hope they lose every game from Saturday on. 95% of their fans, except sales guy Josh, are jerks.
Morning, Josh.
The way they treat opposing fans is appalling. I will never give them a dime of my money.
And he works at a bank, so that means something.
Also, he says Elkhorn South is not South. He may mean Millard South, but is very good with all the transfers in. I think he means Millard South.
Yeah, because he said that, last
Millard
week.
South beat Millard West last night, 56-0.
Okay, so when I saw that, there was a part of me that had a little PTSD, because that was the most lopsided victory since the inaugural season, which yours truly was a part of and was in that game.
All right.
I have a lot of memories, not good memories either. And my friends that were on the other sideline beating the crap out of me and my teammates.
You have fun after the game?
I wanted to reach out to Coach Pete and just say, hey, buddy, I remember that too. That wasn't fun. Better days ahead. Because you know what? Better days were ahead even back in 95.
Millard South's really good. They have an accumulation of not only skill guys, but they got pretty good offensive linemen. I think what they have done coming into this year is on the heels of what West Side. I think West Side was in the heads of Millard South. And I mean, West Side still hasn't been knocked off. West Side's now won, 21 after they beat North last week? But that drives Millard South because remember they lost to them late in the regular season.
Yep.
And then there was going to be a rematch at Memorial Stadium, and Elkhorn South beat Millard South.
Yep.
Now Millard South has, some of the best skill talent that the state of Nebraska has ever seen. And they got swag. They want to make it a really cool program. I saw they were in retro helmets last night.
Yeah, they got the Patriot,
the old Patriot logo.
Yeah.
They've got the area code where on the front where it used to be a Scott Frost thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have made it.
In case they forget.
They have made it a cool program. South Boys.
I don't like that.
They've got a brand. They've turned it into a football school. They got a coach who, Ty is not for everybody, but Ty likes his offensive football. He knows how to call plays, but that's his brand, and they buy into it, and they're very, very good. Last year, they got beat by a team that was better than them in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about playing them in the postseason. Didn't happen. I think that's driven them to eclipse what was a record-breaking year for Westside last year. It's too bad they don't play again in the regular season. I hope this year we do get them at Memorial Stadium. But I think that's what drives them. But they are, if you get a chance to watch them, I mean, they got dudes. I mean, whether it be a guy that's going to Florida State, Tamala can spin it, and he had, 6 touchdowns in 3 quarters last night. But they're pretty good in the trenches as well. So it's not just like they're flash and dash.
Yeah.
I got some big uglies.
When I watched them last,
nice Keith Jackson quote.
Can you call a kid in high school a big ugly?
Sure,
I just call them robust.
You know what? If there are
the big eaters,
if they're the type of team that I think they want to be, then they will take that as a badge of honor. So
the biggins.
I didn't see him with Lofton obviously in the roster when I saw him last year against Gretna, but
yeah,
you could tell they were a little younger,
a little bit different.
Yeah,
Nick.
they were a little more slight.
They've accumulated some athletes.
So I've heard, but yes, for all of you Millard Westers like myself, class of '97 or '96,
great music years.
We all felt that last night.
Millard North, Millard South game will have some intrigue.
Yeah, especially with what Millard North.
They should have you do the coin toss that night, Nick. Have you back?
What, last night?
No. Going forward, one of the games.
No, they got better people. They can get like Chris Septek or somebody else. The only claim to fame I had was the first touchdown pass ever thrown.
By the way,
history.
Embrace this
against Randy Stell and Kenton Keith.
Hey, embrace this in high school football.
It's a big deal.
I was happy.
Teams have multiple uniforms and multiple helmets.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, now these are the schools that can afford it a little bit more.
So will Millard North, will they bust out a taped helmet?
No, that's
gone.
What I tell you the other day.
That's the Fred.
I said they couldn't move on quicker from the Fred Petito era.
I mean,
they had a whole different vibe in Millard North, man.
This is going to sound completely against
they had 40 guys transfer if unfortunately Coach Petito would have come back.
This might be the most sacrilegious thing saying against my generation and growing up in Millard, whether you liked Millard North or not, and you're against them or you're with them. I kind of like the new logo. I kind of like the new look.
It's a good look.
It looked clean.
It's a good look. They made a good hire with Coach Burrell.
If you say that you like something better than the taped helmet, you probably.
I will tell you a guy that is about as Millard North as can be. My Thursday night television partner. We were talking off air last night. Todd Doxson.
Yeah,
played quarterback there. He's okay with it.
Okay, and if he's okay with it, then
there you go.
Then
all right.
Then I feel better.
Brett Ciancia, who will be in Lincoln tomorrow night, our good friend from Pick Six Previews, will discuss a great uniform and helmet game in Ann Arbor, among others, and his thoughts on Nebraska, Colorado. That's coming up next. Lee Sterling's got picks, and yes, he is wagering on the Nebraska, Colorado game. That's still to come before the top of the hour on Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Hey, it's NFL week. Kickoff last night. What? Are you kidding me? That's why we love the NFL. That's why we love FanDuel as well, because the NFL and FanDuel are together as partners. America's #1 sportsbook has a special offer to kick it off. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers, all you got to do is bet $5. You're going to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV.
Sorry, 3 weeks of all of those teams that are usually in the out of markets. And you know who you are. All you need, YouTube TV base plan, and then you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Go to FanDuel.com, use the promo code ZONE. That's FanDuel.com/zone. And download America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Iowa. Full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
All right, here we go. Week 2 of the college football season. Rather important game going on in Lincoln. That means Brett Ciancia says, I got to be there. He'll be here tomorrow night in person on the field, hanging out with the celebrities, which he is part of. He is one of from Pick Six Previews. He joins us now. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm really excited to get back to Lincoln. I was out there for the 2022 Oklahoma game when they had fired Frost and hired Mickey, and I think this is going to be a more competitive ball game and a huge rivalry game. So I'm really excited to get back out there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That was not a good day.
I was like, hey, this is great, Brad. I'll show you the first time in Lincoln. Yeah, it didn't go so well.
Remember, Urban Meyer's going to be the coach, though.
I will get to that. The other, and I said earlier, I think this is the best game of the slate in college football because I'm having a hard time wondering how Michigan's going to play against Texas. But they've won 22 in a row at home. Steve Sarkisian turned it around last year, but prior they had struggled on the road. They have Quinn Ewers. They've talked about this game. It's a big game. Can Steve Sarkisian win another big road game for Texas, a la week 2 last year at Alabama?
Yeah, I think so. I agree. It's probably one of the games of the week along with Nebraska, Colorado. And I think, I think they're going to have the advantage at several positions this time around. It's not the same Michigan team that won the national title last year. Their head coach is gone. 10 starters from the offense are gone. And some key parts of the defense are also gone. And this isn't a fluke. This isn't a fluky Texas team. They're really strong in the trenches. That's how they were built for this SEC transition, and it paid off. When Texas has the ball, it'll be one of the best line versus line matchups, their offensive line against Michigan's D-line. And Michigan's D-line has several All-American candidates. But I think the Texas gets it done. I think it's a more complete team. I think they're going to catch a new young offense for Michigan.
Is Michigan settled at quarterback, in your opinion, with Davis Warren? I know Alex Orji was pushing for it. He seemed like he might be the heir apparent from J.J. McCarthy, but ultimately does not win the job. Do you think they're settled there? And if not, how will that impact Michigan, in your opinion, going forward?
Yeah, I don't think it's settled. I think they had a 5-man race in preseason and fall camp, and I think you're going to still see them play it out in the regular season. And, not much time to work with because Texas is coming with one of the best defenses in the SEC. So, yeah, that's a major liability. That's one of the reasons why I'm siding with Texas in this one. Is just the difference at quarterback. With Ewers, you have a proven Heisman contender who we know can stretch the field vertically, hit every throw in the field. With Michigan, it's more uncertain. So I'll go with Texas here.
Brett, how much stock do you put into week 1? Because Michigan won, but they struggled a little bit with Fresno State. Ohio State was only up 17-6 at halftime, and then they blew the doors off Akron in the second half. Oregon struggled. But then on the other end, we have Georgia looks like a champ. Their culture is not, we can't drive our cars. Their culture is winning. They hammered in the second half Clemson, and you know what Clemson is. Miami over Florida. How much stock do you put in what you see on week 1?
I think a lot of stock. And I mean, I err on putting too much stock into week 1. And I think that's because, I do my preview magazine research for 8 months of the year. I try and find all the information I can, all the spring stuff, all the fall camp info, but a lot different when you see these teams finally come onto the field against a Power 5 or an FBS opponent, really just see what it looks like. So I think you get a pretty good example of what they're going to be for the fall. You learn a lot. So yeah, for example, if Florida State no longer project them, obviously, as a playoff team. They weren't my pick in the ACC, though, thankfully. I was the only magazine to go with Miami. Yeah, I got to put that in there. I only wanted to pick Miami, and that certainly looked good. Florida State has struggled. They're 0-2. But, yeah, I think I put a lot of stock in week 1. It's our only data point so far. So these first couple of games really go a long way.
An interesting game, in my opinion, just because I watched a lot of the Arkansas game as much as I could with Arkansas Pine Bluff. Oklahoma State, as expected, messed around a little bit with South Dakota State. South Dakota State, obviously, FCS defending national champ, so you expected a little bit of a tussle there. But Okie State hosting Arkansas as a 7.5-point favorite in a game that features an unranked team versus a home-ranked Oklahoma State team. Is this one interesting from the standpoint, if we're to see an unranked team emerge, that it could be Arkansas against Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I think it's a great matchup there at noon, 11 a.m. Central. And Speaking of week one, it's hard to really gauge when it is an FCS team. So,
Right.
I mean, I think you take a lot from week one when it's a power matchup, but I don't know when I can gauge 70-0 over Arkansas Pine Bluff. Now, they look more competent. I think the Petrino effect will be real for their offense. Interesting coordinator hire there, bringing him back to Fayetteville. So I think it'll be better than last year's edition of Arkansas, but I'll still go with Oklahoma State here. They're at home. It's a really veteran team. They returned 19 starters from last year's Big 12 title runner-up run. Proven running back, proven quarterback, receiver stable, strong, and Gundy knows how to win games like that. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma State here, touchdown favorite at home.
Hey, neutral site game, intriguing when I saw it on the schedule. And then week one happened, and I wonder, boy, could this get lopsided? Tennessee, North Carolina State are playing in Charlotte. Nico may be the real deal for Tennessee, and their offense, when they're humming, is scary. But North Carolina State was a top 25 team. They remained in the top 25, but they skittered a bit against Western Carolina. Are there legitimate concerns with the Wolfpack, and how do you see this game playing out in Charlotte?
Yeah, I think there's serious concerns with the Wolfpack, and yeah, not just skittered around. It was the fourth quarter they were losing, and I was shocked to see this. I thought coming in they'd be a solid team, really an ACC contender. I had them fourth in the ACC, but they did not look the part at all. I will say Grayson McCall looked good on his passing. I think he put up a ton of passing yards, but you'd expect a veteran offensive line like that to really lean on an FCS D-line and just establish a run game. They couldn't get a personal run game going. Defense was underperforming. So I like Tennessee here. My best bet of the weekend, actually, when it was around 6.5 or 7. It has continued to climb. I still like it. And yeah, you're right about Nico. He's already earned the single name status in college football. That's a good comment. I think people might be scared of that last name too. It's twofold,
Yes.
but no, I think he's a great 5-star quarterback. So I think he's dynamic. He runs their offense perfectly. And look out for Tennessee's front seven on defense. They never get any credit as their offensive-based program, but that front seven's nasty. I like Tennessee here.
I've heard more about Iowa being a potential college football playoff team as opposed to Iowa State. Iowa State kind of a little bit more hovering around the radar of the Big 12, if maybe that's the best way to put it when it comes to their prospects. But Rocco Beck, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, looking at that combination, and we got to give credit where credit's due. Second half by Cade McNamara, albeit against Illinois State, was at least a boost of what this offense needed for Iowa. This one, it always proves to be very close. Both of these teams do also sport a solid defense, especially on the Iowa side. This one is a tough one to get a feel on. I'm curious how you see this one playing out.
Yeah, I really love the Cy-Hawk rivalry. I love tuning into this. It's just old-fashioned football. In fact, if I wasn't going to head down to Colorado, Nebraska, I was looking at potentially this one to get back to the Midwest and see just real football like that. So Iowa last week, I look up there 3-0 at half. I start cracking up to myself thinking, wait, didn't they change coordinators? I thought they fixed this issue. But yeah, you're right. They woke up in the second half, and I think it's going to be a more complete offense. Veteran offensive line. They at least have competent Power 5 quarterback play now. They were both injured last year at Iowa, so I think they're going to step up tremendously on offense. Defense still one of the best in the country. So I like Iowa here by they're favored by 2.5 or 3. I think they'll cover that at home. And another feather in the cap for Kirk Ferentz and Phil Parker's defense. So, but with that said, I still do like Iowa State. I know I'm picking both here, but no, I like Iowa to win the game and cover. But I think Iowa State will remain a player in the Big 12.
Just a reminder, last year, the last 4 games, Iowa had combined for 28 points. They scored 40 this past Saturday.
God, that's bad.
Yeah. Interesting game. Last year, people forget the trip by Alabama to Tampa to play USF. Jalen Milroe, he was not going to play. And they won 17-3 when they were a 34.5-point favorite. One, your reaction to how Alabama, it was against Western Kentucky, they blew them out, but your reaction to how Alabama looked under DeBoer, and also, is this a game where Alabama looks like the number 4 team in the country?
Yeah, well, they played a perfect ball game Saturday. Both sides of the ball, defense was flying around the field, and it's DeBoer's offense. You saw what he did at Washington. You saw what he did at Indiana before that, the D2 level before that, and I think it's going to continue at Alabama with 5-star players everywhere. And yeah, they're not going to overlook USF this time around. They're going to come guns a blazing. I think they're going to cover the 30 points. it was really a perfect ball game again last Saturday. I think they're definitely a playoff team.
This is interesting because I don't know on paper. It looks like this would heavily slant towards the boys in Lawrence, Kansas. And talking about Kansas this early in a college football season as a top 20 team is worth mentioning. But Kansas and Illinois, I'm interested in the line on this one too, especially with very little that we can gauge from week one where both teams won comfortably, but also looking at the quarterback matchup between Luke Altmaier and Jalen Daniels. I mean, I know there's more factors in this one, but is this a sneaky good one for Kansas, or do you like where they're trending heading into this one more so than Illinois?
Yeah, well, you're right about it. It's about the two quarterbacks. I think it's going to be high scoring. They're both definitely the strengths of their teams, especially Jalen Daniels for Kansas. Now, I think the difference is with Kansas, it's a more veteran team across the board. I think their offense returns almost everybody from last year. But actually, the storyline really is that coordinator for Kansas, because they return all their personnel on the field, but the brains behind the operation, Andy Kotelnicki, we saw him Saturday for Penn State, leading a great dynamic offense for Penn State, fixing their issue. He's gone from Kansas. So I think that might tip the scales a little bit closer to a ball game, but I still like Kansas to cover the I think it's now 4.5. It's been moving a lot throughout the week, but I think Kansas covers this. Illinois just doesn't have it this year. They've lost the key parts of their team that made them good in their defensive line and their secondary from 2 years ago. It's all gone. So it's going to have to be a one-man show, Altmaier. I like Kansas.
Hey, this is not a Big 12 game. It's Utah, Baylor, and Salt Lake City. And a couple of years ago, we were talking about Dave Aranda is a rising star in college football. Then last year happened. Every game seems to be significant for Baylor. They're a 2-touchdown underdog in Salt Lake City against a team that you like, we like in Utah. Cam Rising appears to be healthy, and that's scary. Does this seem like this is a Utah point-to-prove type game more than a, hey, let's see where Aranda's at type game?
Yeah, well, I watched Utah's opener against Southern Utah, and Rising right away. He looked like his old self. Threw 5 touchdowns in the first half, a career high. Brant Keefe, the other seventh-year guy back from injury, he had 3 of them in the first half, and on one play, he carried 4 guys into the end zone. So these guys are back healthy, and that's a metaphor for their whole team back healthy. They had 150 games lost to injury last year from the 2 deep. It's vastly, vastly improved this year. They're going to be the Big 12 favorites. Now, this game actually isn't a conference game. It's a schedule quirk where this is the end of a home-and-home series from last year. So it's not a conference game, despite them being new conference mates. I still like Utah to win. They have the strength on both lines of scrimmage. That's the difference for me. They're going to out-muscle them on offensive line and defensive line. And, guys, talk about home sellout streaks. 85 straight for Utah. I know that's not 400 level for Nebraska, but they're building something there in Salt Lake City. It's a passionate bunch. That definitely adds some value. So I like Utah there.
So you will be at the 398th straight sellout tomorrow night between Nebraska and Colorado. We spent all week talking about it. There are characters involved. There is intrigue. There will be celebrities. There will be a very angry 90,000 people in that stadium. And this might be the last time for a long, long time that Nebraska and Colorado play. Huskers are 7.5-point favorite. What do you think you're going to see tomorrow night in person?
Yeah, well, again, I'm really excited to be out there. Really thankful to have the sideline access and be able to meet so many Husker fans before the game throughout town. I think it's bigger than just X's and O's here. I think it's 2 different storylines, 2 different visions to build a program. With Nebraska, it's the old-fashioned way. It's Matt Rule's rebuild, from the high school level, from player development, from strength and conditioning, really the old-fashioned way to build a program. Colorado's the new way, or at least one of the new ways, where it's just all transfer, importation, bringing in 50, 60, 70 guys every cycle from the portal and trying to cobble together a roster in a few months. So it's 2 different visions. It's 2 different styles. Nebraska is more gritty, it seems like, and Colorado might have some of the flash and the media stuff. So it's just a lot of opposites happening. And, of course, the rivalry you pour onto that. It seems more bitter than the Nebraska-Oklahoma that I was at 2 years ago, which seems respectful. This seems more bitter. But anyway, onto the field, I like Nebraska's D-line as the key matchup here against Colorado's O-line, which I think is the worst unit in the whole game. So that's kind of best unit versus worst unit, major advantage Nebraska. And then I really liked what Raiola showed. I know it was only UTEP, and I know I saw him in the spring game, but he's making every throw in the field. It's really elevating this offense and team. That was the key weakness last year that handcuffed Nebraska. I think if he gets above average play, it's going to do wonders for them. So I like Nebraska to win. I'm excited to see a rowdy 90,000. Last time I was there, it was quieted within minutes. So I hope that this is a more competitive game. I know it will be. and can't wait to get out there.
Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, my friend. Enjoy tonight
Same
in
here.
the Metroplex, and then we'll see you tomorrow in Lincoln.
Yeah, same here. Looking forward to seeing you guys. And, enjoy the game tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow.
That's Brett Ciancia
Thanks,
from
Brett.
Pick Six Previews. He's doing SMU tonight, and then he'll be in Lincoln tomorrow for Nebraska, Colorado.
SMU, that volleyball game, man, that had a
Still
effect
buzzing.
on him.
The
Yeah.
Metroplex is still buzzing
Hey,
on that one, too.
So
Forget
there's
the Mavericks.
there is a quick story from Dallas about SMU volleyball. All of a sudden, people started to buy tickets. Remember, they didn't charge for tickets until Nebraska played there the other night. Like NIL, people have been
Look at
donating
that.
to the program.
That's the Nebraska effect right there. There you go. Sign of a good team. Sometimes not always when you win, but when you get beat by a team, what it does to them. There's the brand right there.
People are wondering if John Cook just did SMU a favor. Took one for the sport.
Remember I told you about the MTE in Omaha when they played back in 2017? Kind of wanted to do Omaha a favor a little bit and bring that here. Well, yeah. The guy cares about the sport. He cares about his team, but he also cares about the sport.
Lee Sterling cares about Paramount Sports, the big games this weekend. He does have a thought or two on the Nebraska-Colorado game. He'll join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, here we go. It is week 2 of the NFL season. It is week 1 of the NFL season after that game last night, which, by the way, the Chiefs covered. And we are off and rolling. We welcome in Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. Good Friday football day, my friend.
College football and NFL weekend day.
Oh my gosh! And we are on a heater last night, tonight with a game in Brazil that we'll talk about in a little bit. And then you got a Saturday slate of college football, and then we got Sunday and Monday. Let's jump right into it. Interesting non-conference game between the Big 12 and the Big 10, Kansas, Illinois, and Champaign, where they both played inferior opponents. Combined, they won 93-3. Big game for Bielema. Lots of expectations for KU. The money has been interesting on the side of the ranked team. How do you see KU Illinois working out?
I think KU's going to have a great season. I mean, they are so under the radar. No one's talking about them. With Daniels back and healthy, he's by far the best player on the field. Unless Illinois can really get their running game going with Caden Fagan, 250-pound monster, it spells trouble. I mean, Kansas gets to bring their own officiating crew. They get the Big 12 officials, get to travel with them. Illinois had their Big 10 officials last year, and it didn't help them out at all. They were down 34-7 mid-third quarter. So, like I said, unless they get the running game going, not afraid of their passing game here. I think Kansas just too many playmakers, 31-20.
Lee, two teams that had their hands full last week, Boise State with Georgia Southern, Oregon with Idaho. And you look at Oregon, try to make a big statement in the Big Ten. They are a large favorite, anywhere between 19.5. Saw that thing go as high as 21.5 over Boise State at home. Curious where you see this game between the Ducks and Boise State.
Oregon moved up and down the field, but what happens sometimes, you bring in kids in the transfer portal. The first game just doesn't go the way you would expect, and red zone was not there for Dylan Gabriel. But I think he is a decent substitute, reasonable facsimile of the departed quarterback, Bo Nix here. They stopped the run well. No one ran for more than 170 yards on him, and that's the way Boise travels with Ashton Genty. He is fabulous, but the weakness here is the Boise State secondary. In one of the games last year, the only game against a real dynamic spread offense, they gave up 490 passing yards to Washington. I like the Ducks big here. Romper room special, 48-20.
Ooh, let's talk about the Cy-Hawk Trophy, Lee. The reality is Iowa's won 7 of 8 games in this rivalry. 4 of those have been close. Maybe Iowa's found some offense. They're a slight favorite in this game. Iowa or Iowa State for you?
I think they have found a little bit of offense. I mean, they got goose-egged last 2 games to end last year. They did score 40 points. Most was in the fourth quarter. Still, the receivers not getting a whole lot of separation. That could be a problem down the road against really good teams, and some of those balls might get deflected and intercepted. But they got the 2 constants here. They have defense and they have special teams here. Cy-Hawk Trophy stays in Iowa City. 23-17.
The marquee matchup, even though it doesn't necessarily feature the defending national champions personnel that won them the title last year, Michigan hosting Texas in the Big House. And with what Texas has, we were just talking about this a little bit ago with the quarterback matchup. Texas coming in with a lot more experience on that side while Michigan's trying to still figure that out. Touchdown favorite as Texas on the road. Where's the play this week with the Longhorns and the Wolverines?
So I think the public loves Michigan, taking a home underdog in the Big Ten, a team that won the national title, and their defense is still very good. I mean, they have 2 guys who will go in the top 15 of the draft, in my opinion, but I think Texas' defense is just as good as Michigan's, and Michigan's offense with Davis Warren, they've got a problem. Former walk-on quarterback. He is a game manager's manager. I mean, their 4 scoring drives last week, 26-47. Don't use that on anyone when you go to order, food at Burger King or one of your fast food restaurants. But 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns, covering just 26-47 yards here. Nice kid, walk on. I don't think he's going to be the starter in 2 weeks here. Texas 30-14.
And by the way, that would be USC. That would be coming up in a couple of weeks. Lee, you've been coming on this radio station for a long time. You've watched Nebraska football for a long time. They have beaten your Canes before, and your Canes have beaten Nebraska. But Lee, Nebraska might have a quarterback. There will be a really, really good quarterback on one side. There will be a guy making his second start. The line hasn't changed much. Last year it was a drastic flip after week 1. This year hasn't changed much. 5 to 7.5, sits at 7.5. Nebraska's at home. Atmosphere is going to be off the chains. How do you see this unfolding between Nebraska and Colorado?
2 really good quarterbacks. I think Dylan Raiola is the guy. I think they're going to win 8 games this year. But I think the best 2 players on the field are Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. The public loves Nebraska, thinking revenge spot here after losing 36-14, seeing that Colorado's defense didn't look good. But you know what? North Dakota State wasn't as bad as most people would expect. So I think Colorado might have been looking ahead a little bit here, and UTEP was awful. Nebraska should be like a 3-point favorite here. I'm going to call for the upset. I hate to say it, guys. I hope Nebraska wins 48-45, but I see it Colorado 48-45.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
I got a lot of points. About a 4-hour game on NBC.
Yep. Game of the week, and that happens to be tonight in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Philadelphia is lane 3 against the Green Bay Packers. How can people get involved, Lee?
First, 5 callers. I'm going to give it to them for free. Call 800-400-9741. Game is on me. 800-400-9741. What a start. We're 8-1 last weekend, 10-2 overall in the football. Got a special September to remember, 4 weeks, $4.97, and we have a rare 40-unit best bet going again for the second week in a row. How do you hop on board? ParamountSports.com or call the number 800-400-9741.
Yeah. Hey, try and be nicer to your friends that are UF or FSU fans.
That's pretty tough. You're asking for too much.
Lee, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
All right, you too.
Lee Sterling, Colorado 48, Nebraska 45.
Oh, my gosh.
93 points. That would be about a 4+ hour game.
It's like Nebraska, Georgia Southern in 2022.
Overreaction starting about 2:30 in the morning.
So here on a Football Friday Fiesta, my first mild take, because the quarterbacks, we'll get into the quarterbacks in the next hour, is Shedeur Sanders is who he is. Okay? He's the real deal. There is the other guy that game number 2, he's 19 years old. I don't worry about him handling the moment. There will be certain things about just the games of football and adjusting that I don't worry about, but are going to be the reality. I think that there will be a Heisman moment for the guy from Nebraska. Not that he will win the Heisman, but there will be one of those that will be mentioned. The stats probably will be better for Shedeur. The story on Sunday morning will be about the performance of the guy that's quarterback in Nebraska. Nebraska finally has a quarterback,
which would indicate where you're leaning in that. Well, I guess
you've already said
said
Nebraska 34-21. But I think this is the true coming out party for Dylan, where more people are aware of him. If you're not, and you go, man, Nebraska may have figured out that position.
I said this back in the late spring, early summer about this particular game and for Dylan Raiola. And again, we got another hour where we can talk about this. That there is going to be games on this schedule that I think are going to be interesting tests from his development at the college game for different reasons. Because you'd think if this game was in Boulder, that would obviously be okay right out of the gate. Your feet are to the fire, especially if it was a night game in Boulder and you're up against the crowd. All those things that we all know about. There's definitely going to be a comfort, but how you handle very good athletes on the other side of the football, but also what did you take away from the first week where there was a lot more successes than there were flaws in his performance? That if you perform, because I think you're right. I mean, it's only natural to look at Shedeur Sanders in what Colorado wants to do to say, yeah, his stats are probably going to be better, which is fine. But as far as the plays that need to be made, say on third down, say in the red zone, your decision-making in those moments in a game of this magnitude of the players that Matt Rule said yesterday should be fine when it comes to handling this type of environment to the ones that are still new to it that are probably going to be maybe a little bit getting taken back or taken away with it for a moment. Can Dylan look like a veteran in those moments? And I said this again, going back in the summer, that if he is able to perform and be a part of the solution, and for Nebraska to win this, he will have to be part of the solution in helping Nebraska win this type of game, what that does, and what I think would be a much expedited process to his development this year. Not saying if they lose and, he's okay, has some struggles, that all of a sudden that growth is going to be stunted. but I think it takes a huge leap if he is a factor in a win, which if they win, in my opinion, he has to be a factor, major factor in this game.
But I will tell you, the story isn't about the quarterbacks tomorrow. I might have just went on this thing about, hey, Raiola, and you talk about quarterback. Quarterbacks are not the story tomorrow. Not the story tomorrow. Nebraska's going to win. 48-45 is crazy. I'm now looking to see the last time that a Tony White defense gave up 48. I know they gave up Michigan.
Porous line.
They gave up 36 last year to Colorado. 48-45.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Big overreaction will go for a long time. I mean,
you'll be in the warehouse for a while.
You'll get Charlie McBride hate back in the day. You're like, well, there goes Tony White. That crap that Sharp said about this is his resume game. Burn that resume. John Butler, sorry, man, you're going to be the DC.
Yeah.
Tony White's going to be stuck here for years. Come on, man. Come on, Lee. Come on, Lee.
Like his first pick, don't agree with his last one.
All right, we keep receipts. We don't bookmark everything like Colorado fans do, but we keep receipts.
Yep.
All right, 8:05. A little bit later, Mike Schaefer, Matt Verzal will join us on a Football Friday Fiesta on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime is brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. That is happening on September 28th, same day as the Purdue game. Why is that important? Because Big Red Overreaction will also be at Omaha Whiskey Fest, right downtown at the Hilton. Enjoy that.
All right, welcome in. Hour number 3, Football Friday Fiesta ahead of Nebraska, Colorado. Tomorrow you get balloons at Memorial Stadium.
Balloons!
I asked this because I don't know, because I'd never purchased a balloon.
I did when I was really little.
How much do they cost?
Well, this was when I was a little tyke.
Is it a donation?
Yeah, it was a donation. And this was when I was a little tyke.
$1, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was $1. Okay.
So with the inflation, probably 27 now.
And they take Venmo.
Yes.
Do you look differently?
The Cash App.
Do you look differently if just an adult buys a balloon? Because this is for the kids, right?
I believe you should at least, even if it's for you to borrow a kid to go up and get the balloon. Otherwise,
borrow a kid.
Yeah, if there's one just walking by, just like, hey, buddy, come over here, so it looks like I'm buying it for you.
I mean, I really don't have a feel.
Oh, Tiger Shark.
It's a nice tradition.
Tiger Shark.
$7?
Yeah, Tiger Shark's saying $7 now.
$7?
That's more than a Runza.
Oh, that's a little steep. Now I can
more
see.
Than my pizza.
So these will be cashless, correct?
Oh,
that could be a
good
backup
question.
No, I mean, it's like a tradition, but
Corn
I think
nuts remind you it's for the kids.
I think it's for the kids.
Great name, by the way.
I didn't know. Now somebody else just said the balloons are free.
Okay. No, I believe
bring your own.
So when I was
little, what if you like bring your own balloons?
Smuggle them.
They're going to stop you.
When I was little, it was a donation.
You release at the gate. Yeah, I know that when I was in college down there were service groups that would be their game to sell the balloons, and they would take donations. Okay,
donation, but it was usually the unspoken rule that you would give them $1, and maybe more if you were into that certain group.
Some people got triggered.
It's like your old job.
Some people got triggered because, I don't know, maybe they think the ducks are going to die when they eat the balloon. That's what I was always told.
But Nebraska beat the Ducks.
I didn't even think helium shortage. I was like, oh, they're getting rid of the balloons because some environmentalist is like, you know what? It ended up in a pond in rural Kansas, and some duck chomped on a balloon, and that duck is no longer with us.
Yep.
So I was like,
rest in peace, duck.
Those things are tough to pass once they get in your system.
What I would like to do, what would be kind of cool here if you want to do a story. Wow. On cue.
Email from a duck?
No, somebody has a complaint about something else that's at the stadium.
Fair.
Which I'm a little bit surprised. The sidelines and the canopies weren't brought up earlier. But what if this would be a great story, and I would love to see this. Now, remember, these are touchdown balloons, not on the field goal. You know, you cannot have premature balloon releasing.
And you do sometimes, especially with kids involved. It just happens.
You'd have to go to mentality.
Yep.
But there are
balloon
sometimes you get really excited or you get really frustrated because Nebraska's offense wasn't doing anything back in the day of the balloons, the last time we had them. Yep. So you just release them. Yep. You would release them out of anger and to prove a point.
Yes.
So people would go, oh, there goes a balloon. And then you look at the scoreboard and go, oh, look at that. There's a bagel on the board. What I would do, I would love to see this, is get a balloon, get some type of tracking device on it. Well, I would like to know where it ends up.
Yeah. Especially,
North Korea?
Obviously the wind has a lot to do with that too, depending on the evening.
It'll be calm tomorrow night.
All right,
temperatures falling into the 60s.
We have a balloon expert.
Okay.
So balloons are biodegradable too. They're a specialty balloon. S says the last few years the balloons had an FNBO logo on them.
Yes, they were FNBO.
So they gave them out for free.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't know they gave them away for free. I thought you could still give them a tip, if you will.
But will they have 90,000 balloons?
They got to be prepared.
I would like, though, if you could put some type of tracker on the balloon, I would like to know where some of them end up. Like, does the guy out in Benkelman in the field find it? I'm just curious how far they travel.
Put a little GoPro on it. That'd be kind of fun watching its travels. Not just finding out where it lands, but even seeing its travels.
What's the
what does the balloon see?
What's the Apple tracker?
The like the tag?
Yeah, an Apple tag.
Yeah.
Could you put an Apple tag on a balloon?
Yeah, you could,
just to figure out where it went.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to Nebraska ball, Mike, and our wrestling promos, the discussion about the canopies on the sidelines. So if you were at the game, Nebraska changed sidelines because of the heat. Nebraska on the west sideline, they have canopies covering the benches.
Yeah, the black canopy.
And the first couple of rows are low.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to see the field through these canopies, and they were rather large.
Yep.
Might have been kind of difficult. It's taken about 4 days for people to express their dismay at not being able to see the field behind the new Nebraska bench because of the canopies that are impeding their sightline. Thank you for the email from Jerry. He said, do you know if that's going to be fixed? I don't think so.
How do you fix that? They're going to keep the canopies.
I
would assume.
I think you wait for a couple of years, and maybe when they put in grass, they lower the field.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not going to be a quick week 1 to week 2 fix unless you just do away with the canopy altogether, which I think you're going to probably, if you feel like that is going to benefit you as a football team, which it does, you're going to keep that.
By the way, those have made even worse seats. I don't know why anybody in their right mind likes to sit behind the benches like in the first 5 rows. You can't see anything. That side where Nebraska's on, not only is what Nebraska's done to their bench to keep the heating and cooling, but they also still have the TV camera that goes up and down.
Yeah.
And I noticed on the pavement, they have certain markings. It's tight over there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know why you'd sit low in that stadium.
I don't either.
Man, keep telling the boys and girls out there, that 600 level isn't bad. You're way up there, not
awesome.
bad. Or I like higher up in the north and the south where you can see everything.
Mm-hmm. That was
sitting low in that stadium. The sight lines are not very good.
Literally during a media timeout, went to the concession stand on the 600 level, came back with a full meal and didn't miss one play.
You've got your own bathrooms.
Very
nice.
You've
got your own,
and they're new bathrooms.
And you've got your own escalators up.
Mm-hmm.
You might be way up there, and you might be able to see God, but you look down on the field,
gorgeous view,
and T.O. will be there. That might have been a reach.
One of them will be.
Well, you reference God and T.O. in the same point, so I see where you stand.
T.O. gear available this weekend.
Terrell Owens?
Which one?
Wrong
Find
one.
out.
All right, here we go. Brace yourself. This is a wrestling promo. I'm still waiting for somebody to come hard with Dusty Rhodes. With a little big hiney. Rest in peace. We start this hour with Nebraska Ball Mike. Hello.
Hello. I'm not going to impersonate Dusty Rhodes. It's not even, I can't even do it.
What about Ted DiBiase?
Here's what we're going to do.
You tell us.
Get the fingers.
Deion Sanders, I'm not coming after your kids. I'm coming after you. I have a question for you that I don't think all those pundits on college football game shows or pregame shows have the guts to answer or ask. And here's what I'm going to ask you. Do you care about college football? Not about your kids. We know you care about your kids. We know that you want your kids to succeed. We know you want your kids to be in the best possible place they can. Do you care about college football? Because here's the thing. You ended up going to Jackson State, an HBCU who was dead broke when you got there. And you made promises to them. And you promised them that you'd be around. And you'd stick around. And you would build that program. Walter Payton went there. Do you understand that? Do you get that? Here's the deal. We know your kids are going to be good. Your kids would have been good had they finished at Jackson State. Your kids would have been good had they finished at Florida State. but you chose Colorado. And you chose Colorado because you probably had the ego to tell yourself that you could go anywhere. And if your best game, Buck Josh, if your Super Bowl is beating Nebraska 4 times, what does that say about your program? You know what it tells me? Your program's going to be dead sleep when he leaves for Florida State for whatever money they got left.
Fair point.
Here's the deal. We don't know if you care about college football. You're a mercenary in the pros. You're a mercenary now. But before you leave with your guns and your people, we're going to tell you something. We're here to take you out. And we're here to take your program out. And we're here to remind Colorado just who the hell they are. It's going to be fun Saturday because we're going to wake up and the whole country going to know, including Emmanuel Acho, who had guts enough to ask us if we knew what a teammate was, because one of our boys had guts to look after Mr. Sanders and tell the media they've been talking too much. Well, Mr. Acho, I thought people in Texas could keep their mouths shut. We keep receipts too, and we're looking for you at the end of this mess. There's your promo, gentlemen.
Mike, there's a lot of people that caught strays during that.
There's a lot to process there.
All right, you gonna be okay the rest of the day? That was good.
Was it? I felt like I was everywhere. I didn't get my brain right until the very end.
Would you like to do it again?
Oh.
Call back next hour.
No.
Okay.
I do want specifics on the whiskey thing.
On the who?
The Whiskey Fest?
Specifics on that. Could somebody tweet me and send me specifics?
Hold on. You're going to go to the Whiskey Fest?
Maybe.
Gary's going to be there.
Holy cow.
Do I need to go to the Whiskey Fest now? Do I need to skip my game?
Do you drink?
Do I drink? My father spent 30 years in the booze business, dude.
Well, how was I supposed to know your dad? I'm sure he's a wonderful
you don't
person.
know my dad, but you were with Damon, and Damon brought up my dad all the time.
Was Damon in the booze business?
Damon understood, and well,
I'm not
going to pick on you.
I get it.
Damon always had. When I lost my dad, I let you guys know that.
Yes, you did.
And
I do remember this now.
Damon was always very particular about asking about my dad in the last, the last 6 months.
Mike, I do remember. I do remember that.
I miss Damon. By the way, Damon, have some fun calling the game. You belong up there.
It's crazy, Mike. You know what? He's listening to this show right now.
I hope he is.
Know it for a fact.
He's got his own show, and I know that. But this is personal.
It is.
Because Dion's thinking he can go anywhere. He doesn't even care about his alma mater.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about Florida State. They're going to call begging with him to come back after this year.
All right. Mike, call back next hour.
Why?
Try it again.
Dude, really?
Yeah, next hour.
It's called you dude twice now.
If not, call back on Monday.
Bruh.
Hello? What did you just do? All right, Mike, we got to move on. Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
That was well done. Enjoy tomorrow. I know it means a lot. It's personal to you as well.
You too.
All right.
That was a Bigelow sigh.
Yeah, we sent Jacob. We sent Nebraska ball Mike a 6er.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Bean?
I do remember now. His dad, well known in this community, who was in the booze business.
Let's let it go. In the booze business, dude.
Okay. All right, just come down from that.
I didn't know.
There was different.
This is
different ground was covered.
Don't mean to put any pressure on Lynn, but Lynn is next up. Good morning, Lynn. Thanks for the phone call.
Let me tell you something, brother. We've got prime time coming into town, the big frog that he is, with his nose in the air, and his two little snot kids standing beside him, where the only letters they know are NIL. I've got some news for you, Sanders brothers. The only thing NIL stands for is not in Lincoln this weekend.
Yeah!
You've got Dylan Riola dropping bombs from the sky like you've never seen before. And I got to tell you, you better be buying a crematorium for Sanders, because he's going to be planted 6 feet under Memorial Stadium this weekend. I've got a 35-21 victory for all you little Huskers out there, because what you gonna do when you've got Dylan Riola, the black shirts, Matt Rule, and 90,000 coming down on you?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yeah.
Nicely done, Lynn. Thank you very much.
As a little Hulkamaniac myself back in the day, I really, really appreciate
This was Monday.
Back in the day.
Thank you very much.
That was good, Lynn. All right.
That was very good.
That's the tone. Let's go.
It takes a lot of confidence, just like the football team in Lincoln, to come on the air and do that.
Yep.
Will Compton, by the way, you guys want to guess the number of takes that did not include swearing in all of the hype videos that he has recorded to be played before every home game?
I'm sure they all got re-recorded. So I'm going to say 0.
Actually, NIL, NIU, or whatever, the UNI. Sorry, I could see him being a little more calm, just because.
I wish they didn't bleep out when he said ass. I felt like they could let that one go.
Not big fans of Requiem for a Dream.
I know it's
well played.
If you know, you know.
It's Colorado week.
Hey, it could be happening at 10:30 tomorrow night.
Hey, isn't it? So we talked a lot about the quarterbacks. Let's talk about the big uglies. When I'm doing this a lot this week. When was the last time? Because at some point the narrative has to change. Okay, you have to move on from, hey, you know what? You've done this to me in the past too. The standard is different, the mood is different, and the results are different. Now you're going to win football games like this when you have better coaching, you have better talent, and you know what? Honestly, last time in a Power 4 versus Power 4, previously Power 5 versus Power 5, that on both sides of the line of scrimmage, Nebraska was the better team with the big uglies. How this is rare.
Yeah.
I don't know if it says more about Nebraska or more about Colorado, but you have to change the standard. You have to make the standard, change the narrative that Nebraska football is turning the corner. They're going to win games like this when they have opportunities on a big stage and they don't tinkle down their leg, okay? Instead,
great word.
They're able to, in the middle of the street, spell their name in cursive, okay, instead of tinkling down the leg.
Oh, yeah.
I did that.
That does take a talent.
I was dared when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty good. You got to have the hip movement.
And a short name, too.
But to change where, okay, you're playing a football team where your coaching is better, your talent is better across the board.
Mm-hmm.
You are better on the line of scrimmage. And you know what? You might win a game because you got to play out of special teams. If you do something like that and it comes to fruition, and when they shut off the scoreboard, you have more points, you started to make that the standard. You got to then start stacking those. But I said, this is a game of where do you stand? Yeah. What kind of program you are in these environments, and when you get squeezed, shows up at 9:45 on Saturday night.
Well, and this is...
But you have to start somewhere, and I mean, I know we're all hesitant because we've seen this before, and they've just... And people in Nebraska's a laughingstock. Well, you got an opportunity. Because if you don't win this football game, people are going to ignore Nebraska football nationally until the end of October. And by then, they may not pay attention to them. They're like, same old Nebraska.
This is where I truly feel confident in the attention to details and the preparation. And that's not just for this particular game in general, but the season itself too. Like the coaching advantage that I truly believe Nebraska has. And that's not just Matt Rule versus Deion Sanders. It's Matt Rule setting a tone for these type of moments where you feel like Nebraska is going to be better suited for that. But you bring up the trenches, okay, with Terrence Knighton and Donovan Raiola. Look at Tony White as a coordinator. Look at even the collaboration that I think with Marcus Satterfield and Glenn Thomas of finding guys that fit the personnel and vice versa, where the personnel fits the guys, they're fitting the scheme. That has to matter in this game. And I think it will matter in this game. I mean, I truly do think a lot of the players on the field, and especially with two in particular on Colorado's side of it, which I don't think anybody is going to argue are the two best players on the field going into this game. Now, will it play out that way? We'll see. But the coaching matchup, if it's being discussed, will go as far as Prime versus Matt Rule. It's so much more than that. I mean, this is where I look at the continuity and the lack thereof on one side compared to the other side too.
Yes. If you were having a draft of players in this game and you were drafting Colorado's roster and you said, okay, in terms of the most important players for Colorado to win, your first pick probably would be Shedeur.
Yes.
If you were doing this for Nebraska, the number one pick for Nebraska that is the most important player to win this kind of game, it would be.
I'm still going with Dylan Raiola.
Okay.
Yeah, I because that
I'm not opposed to that, but I like that's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah.
I would go. I might go with a guy in the trenches. But I'm not opposed to Raiola because he will have an important part in this game. But I don't immediately think the quarterback right away of the guy to win the game. And I don't know if that's just the way I'm looking at how this game needs to be won, or maybe it's a good sign for Nebraska. You have a quarterback, but man, that rush in, that nose tackle, that defensive tackle, that left tackle might be more important. Man, if you could get to that point, you might be cooking with some peanut oil instead of immediately going like skill guys.
Well, and that's why I think what has changed from a year ago is this was the game, and it's kind of weird to think that in a game that Nebraska got beaten pretty good, especially in the second half, that we saw it in the Minnesota game with that defensive front, the way they rotated and they were successful in shutting down the run, and then in the Colorado game, where between Nash and then Ty missing the first half of that Colorado game, but then playing in the second half, we saw what he did against Minnesota. And then the rotation, this was also a huge Cam Lenhart game in the Colorado game. And remember, then he gets kind of banged up. So you've got, and even Princewell, you've got guys that are functioning and they're rotating and you're bringing fresh bodies on. It's a huge part of this. But I don't know if I can zero in on one guy and say, on the defensive line, that is, if we're just using that as an example or part of the conversation. Left tackle's a big one too. And in a purpose of drafting, as far as what you know the importance would be, that would be right up there without question. But I also go back to what has changed for Nebraska and what gives people hope. A lot of the same pieces are in place from a year ago with the major exception of quarterback, where you've upgraded. So the difference, in my opinion, in games like this that can come down to one score, if it comes to that, where have you elevated yourself the most that you can be on the winning end of that? To me, it's quarterback.
So this is from Corn Forever on Twitter. He says, you have to go quarterback on both sides. The better question is, other than quarterback, who is?
See, this is where I would get into.
You might go like a combination of, you might have to do defensive backs for Nebraska because they're going to have to run for a while. Is Nebraska good enough in the back end that they can cover wide receivers for about 5 to 6 seconds? Because they're going to be forced to.
Yep. This is where I think Tommy Hill is a good one, and I also think an Isaac Gifford is a big one.
This is a fascinating discussion about, after the first level, who is the next important part of Nebraska's success to winning. And I'm now starting to see this in the email box. It's kind of all over whether it be defensive linemen or defensive backs, or now we are getting, Ed writes in, Alvano. I mean, special teams. At some point, like, can Nebraska win a game where they get a special teams contribution? Where you go, you know what? Check that box. Nebraska won the special teams battle. Instead of, well, it'd be nice if they had 3 phases. This is really a game, if you've put in all this work and you've talked all this stuff and you said, hey, we're better here, 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 and here. And, I mean, Rule is not one of those, we had our best practice of the day or the best practice of the week. He did say that the way they approached it, they were better this week.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point you need to be validated. Saturday night's a chance to be validated because you're on a big stage where Nebraska in the past, the old Nebraska, hasn't come through. And they've let people down, and you're like, what happened? You go back to the drawing board. I mean, what happens if the new Nebraska emerges? What a great opportunity.
And what does that look like, too?
Yeah, that's a great point. What does that look like?
What does that look? And that's where I think this game allows you, if things go well, if things do go well. We had glimpses of it last week, but I know you consider the opponent, and you have to. And most every team that wasn't playing a top 25 matchup had to do that in week number 1. You can only go so far as to decipher, okay, what this team can be. But the stage, guys, it's not lost on us that this is a 4-8 Colorado team from a year ago that had Shedeur Sanders, that had Travis Hunter, even though he was hurt for a good chunk of the season, and had a lot of the same parts there. But given the stakes of this game, the external circus that makes its way in under the lights, and what feels like a must-win game from the standpoint of being able to validate what has been building since the end of last season, going in from spring to summer to now, that's the importance of this thing. But if you are able to cover, this allows people to go fully in. And also, what I would imagine is going to be a very balanced offensive attack with big-time passing plays, big-time opportunities in that side of it in the passing game. That's where you start looking at the new Nebraska and thinking, man, that's a winning formula.
That's okay. It's okay to say Nebraska needs to win this game.
They do.
Don't poo-poo it.
No, they do.
Nebraska needs to win this football game. They need to win. Colorado would like to win.
Yep.
Nebraska needs to win. When you wake up on Sunday, the team that loses, if it's Colorado, that's okay. They'll move on. They got Colorado State. They're 1-1. They expected to be 2-1 through the first 3 games. They were an underdog. Nebraska loses this game on Sunday. Do you go, No, do not run away from it. Nebraska needs to win the football game on Saturday for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Mike Schaefer will allude to those coming up here in about 25 minutes. There's so much about Saturday night, and we've been there before, but at some point you can't always be there before.
Yeah.
At some point you have to go, you know what, this is the standard. We're going to play in games that generate a lot of excitement, a lot of eyeballs, and you know what, we're going to be prepared, and there's going to be times where we're the better team on the field.
Yep.
And now it's time to prove it. Saturday night's a great opportunity. Because you'll be tested.
Yeah.
You'll be tested in ways that you won't be tested for a while on this schedule. All right. There's a little rant there. It was not my wrestling promo.
No, you got better. Yeah.
I think I don't want to shoot my load too early. All right, 8:39. Mike Schaefer, Matt Verzal, still to come. They're going to honor the 94 team before the game, but Verz thinks that the 95 team is better. Plus, I will get Verz to tell you a story from the 94 Colorado game that has not really been talked about much, where Colorado made a mistake, and there's a lot of Nebraska fans that are in the airline industry. That's coming up when he joins us at about 9:20. 16:20 The Zone. So considering how I think Nebraska will play defense, and I don't know how long Colorado will commit to the run, because Nebraska's defensive front has a decided advantage over Colorado's offensive line, not only experience but also size. And I mean, there's a play, Mostrate from North Dakota State just ragdolled Khalil Benson in that game. I mean, who played the Big Ten last year, and now you've got Nebraska's collection from Hutmacher to Robinson to Butler to Lenhart on the defensive line. So I don't know how long Colorado will stay with the run. Remember, their longest run against North Dakota State, which is not an elite defense at the FCS level, was 11 yards. And they're going to run, I would imagine 98.6% of the time, they're going to run 10 personnel. So how long will they stay committed to the run game? Like if they get shut down, they try and run on 3rd and short and it gets shut down. Do they ever go back to it?
No, probably not.
Yeah, they were only 2.6 yards per carry. So Nebraska will have to defend the pass. Wouldn't that be something if Nebraska goes through the first 2 games of the season, combined blitzes less than 5 times?
Yeah.
Because they did not technically have a called blitz against UTEP.
Right. And to me, that says 2 things. First of all, it speaks volumes of the talent that you have up front. But also, I think how important it is to have those linebackers essentially being disciplined in lanes when it comes to providing secondary coverage. And this is where I go back to the type of pressure that your down defensive linemen are going to be able to get on Shedeur Sanders, of where I think the linebackers, as long as they're not having to play out of position or they're all of a sudden breaking late to the quarterback with exotic blitzes that we saw a little bit more last year. I think it's going to be a huge wave of defense if and when Shedeur Sanders makes a mistake. Like I think you brought up John Bullock of as far as an oddly specific. Like I think of that wave of defenders that is going to have a shot at making one of those plays when you're able to keep those guys back, and also trying to cloud up the field, trying to cloud up a lot of the lanes too. I mean, you're obviously you have guys that are going to be in coverage, but being able to drop back just a little bit, covering those different lanes so you don't feel like you have an open window because those guys are interrupting too.
I think though your defensive linemen have to have lane integrity. I mean, I think they can't get all willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shadeur's going to make some plays.
And he'll take off every now and then.
I mean, he'll take off a lot. I mean, I think he'll get outside of the pocket, and then it becomes a little playground football. But if you have lane integrity when you're rushing, I mean, that will help a little bit. I worry. I mean, I think Nebraska defensive backs are going to be really tested. They're going to make some throws into tight windows.
Mm-hmm.
Be curious to see how physical this game is if they let Travis Hunter have his way, or if they let him just go at each other, or if they start nitpicking. Do they call DPI or OPI early in the game?
That's a big part of it.
Because Travis Hunter will test you, and if he can get away with some things, I think they will pick on Hartzog.
Yep.
They did last year. I think they will try and pick on Buford. Will they pick on the second level when they find them in the middle of the field?
Mm-hmm.
Will they make a Bullock run with a wide receiver on a mismatch?
So this is
in Nebraska on a bad switch or bad communication, and the next thing you know, you got Bullock trying to cover a wide receiver.
Exactly, and that's part of my mild takes, mild, medium, hot. My mild take is actually I think LeJontay Wester is going to be Colorado's biggest weapon in this game, because for that reason alone is where he's going to be isolated, because there's going to be so much attention on both Horn and Hunter and we saw a little bit of it because I think he had 5 catches against North Dakota State, and there were moments. This is where I thought North Dakota State in a lot of areas in that game were poor tackling and took weird angles, but there were a couple of big tackles that saved some huge plays from LeJontay Wester that would have gone for bigger gains. And this is where I do like Nebraska as a tackling team, but I do think he will be featured a lot because he's got that speed too. And he's still kind of an unknown commodity amongst that entire group that I think he gets showcased a lot, basically out of necessity, because I think that might be there for Colorado.
More likely to get a roughing the passer penalty, Nebraska or Colorado?
I'm going to say Nebraska, even though I think the discipline is more on Nebraska's side. I think they have more opportunities. So I'm going to say Nebraska. And I think Shedeur gets maybe a little bit of that treatment too.
But if I was Colorado, I think I said this in the summer, I would introduce myself to Dylan if I had a chance. And if it cost me 15, that's what Colorado does.
Well,
welcome to this game. Let's see how you react to that.
Yep. And the guy calling the shots on that defensive line too, I would have a feeling would be okay to the point that he's probably encouraging that.
It's like when Kathy Ireland was roughed up
so
after
you got to
a field
remember
goal.
there'll be a lot of
Kansas.
emotion in this game. I'm sure there'll be some chatter on the field. The place will be revved up. Guys want to make a statement. They want to be a hit sticker. They want to announce their presence with authority.
Announce your what? Sorry, I had to learn that one.
But look at
you should.
There was a lot of that stuff that happened against North Dakota State.
Yeah,
both sides.
And this is another area. So I was talking about Colorado's coverage of their football team and some of the local media, where there's a part about Shedeur Sanders on how he handles that you can throw anything in the world at him and he is going to handle it in stride, and he will not become a victim of the moment. I don't necessarily buy into that, because this is, and that environment and the type of defense in this game, I think is going to do some things and test him in ways that he is at least not very accustomed to, on top of, I will continue to go back to how important this environment is, that Shedeur will talk. And the guy can back a lot of it up, but it might just take one moment where he kind of gets away from himself. That could be a big moment in this game, whether it leads to either personal foul type things, or more importantly, it leads to trying to almost be too pumped up on a throw. You airmail something and all of a sudden the DB has it in its hands. Those little moments like that, where I don't buy that anybody in the college game is just unflappable. I do not see it that way. And I think when you are introduced to a new environment, like I think this is going to be new to Shedeur Sanders, I understand the confidence that he will, more times than not, be able to overcome those situations. I think there's going to be some things that he's not used to in this game.
From Nebraska's perspective, I hope you're right, but man, he's built different.
He is.
He's built different. He has got supreme confidence, and he'll keep going back to the well. And there's another thing, like he gets hit a lot.
Yeah,
he's tough.
Yeah, I'll give him that credit for sure.
He is tough.
He took a beating in the Nebraska game.
I said an oddly specific prediction was an interception. That would be a rarity. He's never thrown in an FBS level game an interception on the road. And at Colorado, he's thrown 4 interceptions in 464 pass attempts.
Well, and last week's was a fluke.
Yeah, I mean, it
goes off a guy. It was the pick. It was the kick six, essentially.
It was like, hey, we're going to Lincoln next week. Let's do a tribute to Matt Davison.
Exactly.
I was a big fan of Shevin Wiggins.
Yeah, we're Shevin Wiggins. Exactly.
Quick break, come back. Mike Schaefer after the top of the hour, and Matt Verzal as well. On 1620 The Zone. I just dawned on me now that we're into the football season. Maybe it's my circle of friends. I was looking at my refrigerator this morning, and I have one schedule magnet on the refrigerator. Is the Omaha Storm Chaser schedule magnet they give away? Usually by this time of the year, I have like 4 that are from realtors.
Yeah.
I have no
bank.
realtors schedule magnets.
I know you're out and about.
I need to go find. I mean, I'm not buying a house or selling a house. Are the realtor magnets? Are they still out there?
I have not seen one this year. Have you gone to maybe just pop into an open house and grab one? I'm sure they have them there.
No.
I believe banks do them too. I remember I used to have
Really?
an FNBO one, yes, a while back. Insurance agents sometimes do.
I
too.
mean, we don't even have like
Expecting an
schedule
email
cards
in
anymore.
3, 2,
We
1.
just have pocket schedules.
Yeah.
No, I mean there are.
No, you just
there
pull it
are
up on the app.
There are realtor magnets out there because that's a great promotional piece.
Yeah.
The beer companies, their posters are banging this year. The bars that I've been in.
And if you go to your local grocery store's wine and spirits department, you see a variety of them up there.
Hey, I always appreciate the small town bar. It doesn't have to be a small town bar. Like usually the dive bar that has the schedule poster and they update it with the actual score.
Yeah.
Because we're missing that. Remember when
when you just lose interest?
Hey, remember on I-80 right there by the
Cabela's.
Yeah. They had the Blue Cross Blue Shield billboard that would update the score.
Yeah, just gave up.
So after Nebraska sucked, they stopped doing it.
Yep, they just give up.
Now it's just some promotion for Nebraska volleyball.
What was always great is there would be a time that the schedule poster would be filled out because the first couple non-conference games were always successful. And then after the first loss, you might commit to that thinking there wouldn't be much more, and then there'd be another one. And then after a while, you would see 2 losses of the score filled in, and yet 3 weeks have gone by, yet the last 3 games haven't been filled in because they just gave up. It's a state of mind. I understand it. I totally do. But if you're going to do one score, that first score is written down, you got to commit to the entire 12 games.
If a realtor out there would like me to send me a schedule magnet, I will give you some love on the air. I usually have like 4 of them. I even kept them. I have them on the side of the refrigerator, like I've built up. I mean, not everybody is for the magnet on the refrigerator.
Can I ask you why you need it?
Huh?
Can I ask you why you need it? You know the games are.
No, I just kind of like it's cool.
Okay.
People come over to your house and they're like, that's kind of cool.
They say, that's who we're playing next week. Thanks. I'm glad you had the magnet up. I feel like there are certain people who just don't need a magnet. You'd be one of them.
So
Anna's Miller Lite Pro Football Handbook.
What does it say? What does it say about you if you have a bunch of magnets on your refrigerator?
You like science?
That you're a cluttered mind.
I don't have like the kids' schedule on my refrigerator. I like schedule magnets. Everywhere I go, like, for basketball season, there's a lot of teams like in the Summer League will do schedule magnets.
Yeah.
I'll pick them up.
I'll
throw them on the fridge.
Are you very diligent about taking it off as soon as the season is over? Because when I used to do this, I'd have ones from 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I got a new refrigerator, so I had to take them all off. I had like a 2016 Iowa basketball schedule when Omaha played over there.
Oh, that
I
makes
just had
sense.
it like thrown at the bottom of the fridge. So any realtor that would like to send to the radio station a schedule magnet, I'll give you some love next week.
Okay.
I just don't have any. I thought I usually have like at least one by now. I have zilch.
Just don't know why you need one.
I don't even know who Nebraska plays this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm lost.
I heard there's a game tomorrow night. Is it at home?
I can tell you the Storm Chasers are playing in Memphis. Other than that, don't know anything else. Mike Schaefer is going to join us here in just a little bit on 1620 The Zone. All right, so I don't know the whole balloon thing because I'm talking to someone who has intimate knowledge of the balloons.
If they're biodegradable or not?
Yes, they told me that. I said, why not 90,000? Their response was, are you volunteering to cut and tie the ribbons?
Got you there.
You mean balloons don't come with strings?
No. You gotta blow the things up with the helium, and then you gotta tie the strings around them. I know, man. There's work that goes into it.
You know what? Get a sponsor. Go to Dollar Tree and buy their balloons. Their balloons are always inflated.
And you're not in it for the long haul. You don't need them to be high quality balloons. They just got to be released at the right time. Hopefully very, very early in the first quarter.
About 6,000 balloons will be in the stadium.
Okay.
But more if you'd like to bring your own. I don't know if people have like helium in their garage. They got the strings and they got the little thing you got to put in so it doesn't deflate.
Is that when you know it's a big game? It's the bring your own balloon game?
Yes.
There's always the bring your own energy. How about bring your own balloon?
There's a difference because,
BYOB, buddy.
People just like to complain. And they're like, you know what? I guess it's a Super Bowl for Nebraska. They're having the balloons.
Yep.
You know what? You now judge the opponent by Nebraska if it's a bring your own balloon game or if the university provides them. That's how we judge if they're good or not.
Yeah.
Northern Iowa, bring your own balloons.
Yep.
Illinois,
it's a BYOB.
They've been struggling. Bring your own balloons.
Yeah, BYOB.
Rutgers, they've moved to the level of we'll provide the balloons.
Yeah.
UCLA, not good enough. That's a bring your own balloon game. It's actually going to have a designation on the pocket schedule.
Yep, it should. Yeah, it will. It'll denote which game that will be provided or where you should BYOB. By the way, Zach Legomaniac absolutely hates this conversation. He thinks the balloons are the worst thing in the world. This is like the fourth time that he's mentioned the balloons are the lamest thing in Memorial Stadium.
Now, did people miss the balloons?
I didn't really.
I'm not really a pro or anti-balloon.
It just got so weird towards the end of the balloons' presence because, well, as you said, Nebraska stunk. Offense was hard to come by. People started just releasing them either prematurely because they were tired of holding it, or they're like, "Screw this! This thing's going up in the air," because it would be in your hand for so long. You would have just the occasional, like after a 3-yard gain, all of a sudden you'd see a balloon go up.
What's the next thing they're going to bring back at Memorial Stadium? Winning?
Oh, will that be in the schedule?
Like what was taken away that could come back?
Yeah, I think winning. Winning would be the number one top priority. That would be fantastic.
I know it's going to come immediately. Hey, how about cash? So I ran into this problem last week at a high school game. I just wanted a drink. Mm-hmm. All I had was a card because I don't carry cash.
Mm-hmm.
This particular concession stand at Gretna, they don't take cards, all cash.
Oh,
I noticed last night at Ralston, the concession stand only takes cash.
So when I took Reese to a couple high school football games last year, I anticipated that because he wants popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't carry cash on me a lot, but I did still assume that most concession stands would not go card. So I did have cash on me. So I wouldn't have known because I paid for everything in cash. I wouldn't have known if there were any type of card readers at any of the places I was at last year.
I probably shouldn't be surprised that at high schools they don't have card readers.
Yeah.
They only deal with cash.
And they still got the zipper bag that they put it all in there at the end of the night. But it goes to the athletic department.
But they didn't have a sign up that said we only take cash. And so the gentleman, the volunteer, grabbed the drink and brought it to the counter. And I had my card, and he goes, "Oh, we don't take cards." And so it was the awkward moment of, well, I don't have cash.
Yeah.
That's sitting right there. You've already poured it. And he reached and he grabbed it and he walked away. And so I put my head down and walked away.
It was a walk of shame. You would be surprised, Gary, if I told you a lot of Big Ten baseball venues are still only cash. Because you'd go down, the ones that didn't provide a meal, you'd go down, you'd get something to eat. And you're like, all right, cool. I got my card on me. And they're like, we don't take cards. Like, it's a college baseball venue. What are we doing here? A lot of them. So definitely high schools.
All right, here is Tim on the 42 Degree Source Hotline. Good morning, Tim.
Hey, fellas. Hey, I just picked up 40 air horns. I'm going to close down Cracks tonight about 2 o'clock. I'm going to be in your neighborhood, Gary. I'm picking you up, and we're heading to La Vista. We're we're gonna go right by, I don't know, Cabela's, that hotel, and just have a good old time in the parking lot.
Be a nice night for it.
You want to join me? We can pick up magnets on the way.
Sure. I'll be around a little bit later.
Tim, you going to pull a fire alarm?
Oh, if they let me in, I will.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh.
All right. Tim's
Challenge
taking one for the
accepted.
team.
I'll pick you up, Gary. I know where you live.
Okay. That's scary.
You'll know it's him because he'll announce his presence by blowing one of the 40 air horns.
I can't be dealing with shenanigans.
It'd be a really nice night for air horn blowing.
Colorado has their own security that is with them because of the whole program. They travel with an abundance of security.
And Amazon.
So park across the
Does
street.
Amazon
with a
provide
megaphone?
security too for their own Amazon people? Or are they on their own? Are they part of that secure group?
Are they Prime members? Not that Prime.
That's
perfect.
There'll be a lot of people. I mean, you'll see the Colorado sideline is kind of interesting to watch. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people
phones out.
There are a lot of people on that Colorado sideline that I don't know what they do.
They're
not really coaches or anything.
Yeah, they capture content. That's what they do.
They won't be there next
year. That's a good
year.
way to describe. We are the content capturers.
They are. And there's not just one. They have multiple angles of them. I think it was the first touchdown for Travis Hunter. There were 8 dudes, give or take, that were wearing essentially the same stuff as all the coaches were wearing. And all they did, they were near the end zone and they had their phones out. They were just capturing that. There was at least, maybe 8 was too many, but I saw at least 4 that were just holding the phone up, getting the footage, and it was probably up on all the social media platforms. They're probably listed on the coaching staff too.
Are people disappointed that Nebraska's quarterback doesn't like attention?
No.
I mean, he is the front door to the program.
I think people love that about him.
He at least has given you hope, and he's only played 1 game in his college career.
Mm-hmm.
There's something interesting that was said earlier this week when Bayor was Bayor talked about the physicality and what he was going to do, and apparently that is bulletin board material in Boulder because they have been watching Nebraska's player press conferences to grab things that have been said.
Good luck.
If you need motivation to play in this game, then you know what? Don't get on a plane. Don't go to the hotel tonight. Don't do any of that stuff. Just stop, okay? If that's what you need is motivation, even extra motivation. But there was something subtle, and I think this is in a game like this. If Nebraska's trying to turn the corner, and again, I have Nebraska 34-21, 27-21, then a late touchdown to cover and win, is you need team. Like you have to have a team where together as a team, and you don't break apart. And you've got guys that pull their weight and guys that don't want to let the guy next to them down. Keep going back to this. Games like tomorrow night are built for guys that decided that, you know what, being at Nebraska for 6 years, actually wasn't bad being there for 7, but being there for 6, I want to be that. I'm coming back. You know why? Because I've never won. All of a sudden, Nebraska's got a quarterback that has never lost. And now you got guys on that roster that have never won that got a taste of it last week and are like, you know what? Kind of like this. Let's see what next week is like. These kind of games are made for them. So there's the element of just pure winning. It's okay to talk about winning because Nebraska's now moved. It's time to win. Not time to develop, not time for culture. You got that thing figured out. It's time to win football games. But something subtly that was said by Bayor, that the edgy part of, hey, Dylan Raiola's got some dog. Do you find it intriguing, going back to the team part, intriguing that it was a defensive guy backing up a quarterback who'd only played 1 game?
Yeah.
Sometimes defensive guys don't even know the offensive guys' names. They know them by number or they can recognize them. But a defensive guy standing up for an offensive guy who's played 1 game.
Yeah, because it's real. Absolutely. That is something. Because it wasn't even really the way that the question, the way that he was brought up in that subject wasn't necessarily Mackay answering a direct question about Dylan Raiola. He was asked about Shedeur Sanders, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah.
And then he brought up, our guy's pretty good too, got a little dog in him. And so to me, that his response felt somewhat personal. His response was, You guys are talking about that guy over there. We've been watching this guy a lot. We, as a defense, have been going up against this guy a lot. We've probably given him some looks a few times that have confused him, but then we've watched him bounce back. And we've watched him operate like a guy that doesn't look like a 19-year-old making his college football debut.
See, that's why I'm not afraid to say, you know what, it's okay to look at Dillon against Shadur Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Shadur Sanders going to the NFL, and he's going to be first or second quarterback off the board. And depending on what team he's on, got a chance to make a lot of money and be very successful as a quarterback in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guy that came to Nebraska that's quarterbacking for the home team tomorrow night feels the same way, that if things work out, he would like to be the first or second guy off the board. So why not, even though it's his only second game, to do some comparison, to go, hey, this is what Shadur is in his last year in college. Where is Dillon at?
Yep.
How far does Dillon have to go?
Yeah. No, I think it's...
So I wouldn't run away from it. It's okay to compare. I mean, they're on different levels right now.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, what if the guy in Lincoln is on a lot higher level than you thought? Because I asked the question on Tuesday when we were together, was he better than you thought? There were a lot of people who were like, yeah, a little bit better than I thought. Okay, so go ahead. It's okay to compare.
And I think what I said where he was better than I thought, I think is huge for this game tomorrow night too. And that is just overall between the ears calmness that he exudes, even when he is moving out of the pocket, even when things might seem like they're off schedule. Things are going to be ratcheted up even more tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him handling the moment of the emotion and all that stuff. My thing will be, what if he encounters a lack of success during the game?
Mm-hmm.
How does he adjust on the fly? What if his wide receivers struggle a little bit and their timing is off and they still haven't gotten to where he likes them to be when he's letting the ball go and running the proper route? And what if they are not elite blockers? Like, how does he adjust during the game? The emotion of the game and the surroundings, I'm not even worried about that. I'm worried about what if there is a breakdown from something that's got to be an asset to him to make it work. Do they fix it in game? Does he fix it in the middle of a series? Does he have the ability to do that? Does he not try and freelance but stays within himself?
Right. And so there again,
those are my questions.
Yeah, and there again, I would go back to what impressed me more than anything about his performance was knowing when you needed to convert a third down and the pocket isn't there for you. That he looked like he'd been doing it at that level for years. And so in a game like that tomorrow night, where it's a fair point of how will he respond to early adversity when any number of those things are happening, but there is still a drive to be had that could be the difference of winning or losing a football game. Will he still be within himself the confidence that he's been working towards? This is everything that you hear about his work ethic, and a guy that is, I think Jamal Banks said it, is humble but still comes across as he is him. His words, not mine. That he's still the dude, even though he doesn't portray himself as the dude. I know a lot of that is more mental, but we'll call it what it is. The guy is super talented. The guy has the physical attributes that you want, whether it's a 19 or 21-year-old kid that is slinging the football. It's the ability to be able to evolve the way that you are maturing throughout the game in big games like that, which he gave you a pretty good look in his first college football game ever. And then we just so happen to get a much more deep look of that tomorrow, where it could pay off big time. It could come in handy in a big way, because as long as that part of it's there and he's not rattled by anything, if there's not success early on, the arm can do the arm can make the throws. The accuracy is there as long as he doesn't lose himself.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of tomorrow night.
So one of the things, NBC Sports has been in Lincoln all week. So Nicole Auerbach has been spending time with Matt Rule. She's telling a story that Tuesday, the Spence Crawford stuff came from a Tuesday practice this week, where Rule was not happy with what he saw in practice, saw the same too shallow routes by receivers, which clogs up the middle of the field and doesn't free anybody up. The same big plays allowed by the secondary receivers that shouldn't ever be that wide open. Bad snaps for good measure. So they were having a team meeting. Rule then decided that we've got to do a different mindset. He goes, can't happen. You can't have bad Tuesdays. That's where he cues up the Spence Crawford fight. Tells his players he wants them to see what winning looks like. They only watch the 7th and 9th rounds. Yep. Then I'm just reading through this. Rule says we're going to use this to make moments, decisions second by second, like Bud Crawford does. Put the work in, then you execute. Auerbach adds this as an observation of Rule. Says that Rule all week has said that Colorado will land its punches. He's not overly worried about that part. He wants Nebraska to focus on the counterpunch. And then her comment is her observation of Rule this week. Let me scroll back up to this. Is that it's clearly important how important this game is to Rule and how painful the loss was a year ago. Rule knows he's got a team good enough to win it and win a bunch of games this year. So this will be featured in the pregame. They've been embedded all week with the Nebraska football program.
I like the reference that he brought up, and it's kind of interesting to get a little bit more in depth on where it originated from on Tuesday. But yeah, you can make those comparisons and use that analogy of a guy that everyone knows to be the best in his craft and how he handles big time moments like that and how you can apply that to your overall approach in a game like this. I mean, a lot of what he was saying, it all kind of took us back to the fight, but it took us back to what makes Terrence Crawford so good. You asked the question, what does the new Nebraska look like? If you can look like that in the type of games like this, where, try all you want, hit us all you want, we're always going to have the answer and some that we're calculated to the point that when it is that moment of, all right, put this baby to bed, we have the answer because we have the players to do it, but we also have the belief to do it.
All right, Verz is next on 1620 The Zone. Hey, you want to know how to beat Colorado? You talk to this man. His time in Nebraska, had some success, was there for some big moments, and there'll be another big moment tomorrow night. Matt Verzal joins us. Good morning.
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Good. How you doing? It's Colorado week.
It is. It is. It'll be, and it's reunion week. So,
Gong show.
When does the reunion start, by the way?
it will start tonight.
That's what
Gong show.
Unfortunately, I'll be on a flight to Dallas. So,
You have told some stories in the past about Colorado week. The one where they left the playbook on the plane. The flight attendants called the Nebraska football office. It ended up in the hands of Nebraska. There have been other stories that have been debunked that were used as motivation. Do you have a couple of your favorite Colorado week stories as a football player in Nebraska?
I think you might have me confused. I was not aware of the playbook on the plane story. I did not know that one.
Sorry. Yeah. We'll
My
take that off the podcast.
Part about Colorado week was we all have this version of TO that's ultra conservative and uptight and this. He got a little pissy during Colorado week, and I think it stemmed back because he almost took the Colorado job a few years into the Nebraska job.
Yep.
But when he called his shot, against Colorado, it was awesome. And he just straight up said, he goes, if everyone does their job, this play will score. And he's like, and we're running at the first play of the game. And I was like, damn, like there's a prediction for you. We get out there and he ran it and he just looked at everybody and like, you peons, I told you this was going to happen. And I was like, whoa, this is pretty awesome. So that one will always resonate with me. The other one, we were out there doing our walkthrough and this limo kind of came out and it was that Van Vader dude who played at Colorado. And if you notice a pattern with Colorado lineman guy, they're all big, they're all loud, but then when the rubber kind of meets the road, it never really works out for him. And so they were yipping at us during warm-ups, and we had guys that were more than willing to engage. But I think that was the year they walked out of the stands.
Oh, yeah.
I think we might have scored on the first play of the second half in that year. I don't know. They all kind of run together, and I'm old, so. But no, those Gio calling a shot will forever ring true in my brain.
So there's the TO factor of the week leading up to the game. There was usually a lot of stuff coming out of Boulder as far as talk. We know how extremely physical, dare I say, violent your practices were amongst each other. How much did any of that, if anything, make its way to where you guys were spending more than 5 seconds talking about what was being said out of Boulder when that game was going to take place?
Those are, I hate to burst everybody's bubble. That's just stuff for you guys.
Good.
Stuff for media. And they were just, it forever helped me rewire my brain. And it's just like, hey, man, we do what we do. It doesn't matter who's out there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get it just like everybody else. And some provided more resistance, which at that time, Colorado probably would have been in that camp, and others didn't. We're like, yep, we're here to cash a check. We'll see you guys later. So it's fodder for media and to sell papers and ads and all that kind of stuff.
Better or what you thought you'd see this past Saturday, 40-7 over UTEP?
Well, I really liked the early game plan. I thought Satterfield got in a pretty good rhythm. I'd call it the Oreo, but Nebraska's offensive line in the middle, the two A gaps, I thought they did a nice job of controlling those. They were able to run, up in there. I was really, really impressed with how hard the running backs ran. Unfortunately, you had a fumble in the game, but I think that might have gotten negated by a penalty, so I don't know if that one – no, they fumbled. But that was probably the most impressive thing to me. Ray was just slick. I mean, kids that grow up in professional locker rooms are different. They stress doesn't exist to them. They've seen guys whose life, like feeding their families, depend on them making a team. This stuff doesn't bug them. So I thought he was really good, in control of it. Very impressed with him being able to check in, out, and back into a play. Probably more impressed with the offensive line, was able to comprehend it and didn't jump offside. T. White's defense is T. White's defense, baby. It's pretty cool to see that. And I think you got a good glimpse of what Hutmacher and Robinson will look like with some rest. They were fresh still in the third quarter, and it was a good step to take in the rebuild of the tradition of Nebraska football.
You gave anybody who listened to you with us last week, you gave a good indicator of offensive line success. And you just alluded to it a little bit there too. Another part you talked about is how the running backs, if they're not making their first move in the backfield because they're trying to avoid a defender, also a good sign. I couldn't help it, but at least in the first half, to be zeroing in on that area as far as what type of push on the point of contact and then what running backs were doing when they engaged the line of scrimmage as opposed to the defender. To me, a lot of that looked pretty solid. Did you come away with a similar takeaway from just all of those aspects?
Early, it was really good because the play calls featured it, right? And I've said this for quite a while. If you get your offensive line into a rhythm early in the game, then they're going to it's like a drug. They just want it more and more and more. Then they got away from it, and they try to go back to it. If you just look at it from a simple physics standpoint, right? If the line can get 2 yards of push and a running back has a 6-yard run at the area the linemen are blocking, even if he's contacted at 2 yards, momentum will take him forward 2 more. That's 4.
Yep.
So you get 4 and 4 and 2, you get 3 more downs to do it again. And so I hope Satterfield understands. So that interior Warren Sapp-led Colorado defensive line is not exactly a world beater. So there may be an advantage to take there for Nebraska. Just control the A-gaps. You control the A-gap, you control the game. So I hope they did it. But no, they got a nice push up early. I mean, I've been an Evans Jenkins fan for a long time. The Mizuka kid I thought was nice. He got out over his skis a couple times, but he's old in his season, and he kind of dialed it back. Scott did a good job. So when you're getting good push from those three, it's just you're going to have a good day, and then it can kind of cover up for some of the things that happen out a little bit further away from where those three play.
Most important thing tomorrow night when the pocket breaks down and Shadur starts scrambling, most important thing for Nebraska's 11 defenders will be what?
15 is greater than 6. Okay?
Okay. Oh, I know where you're going.
When I say that, if it breaks down and you feel you're at a disadvantage, tackle that dude. Tackle him. Take the 15-yard penalty. And just don't give up the big touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty slick with it. But that's smart corners will do that in college. I am beat. I am going to hold you. You are not catching a touchdown. Enjoy the next down from the line of scrimmage. Good luck. Again, as I said, Nebraska offensively controlling A-gaps. If they can keep that pass rush near or at the same level, if I make a U with my thumb and my 2 pointer fingers, and I just kind of move my thumbs to the sides of each other, I move it so my 2 pointer fingers come together, that's what you would hope the pass rush looks like for Nebraska. Because Shadur wants to, he will back out of a pocket to start scrambling around because he knows he can thrive in the scramble drill. He does a good job of throwing it from the pocket in the first 2 to 3 seconds. And after that, he wants chaos. So if you can just make that pocket just kind of contract on him, I think it could be a good, really, really good day for Nebraska. But that's easier said than done. You got guys trying to keep you from not hitting the franchise quarterback. So we'll see, I guess.
Hey, you bring up Tony White's defense real quickly, an example of where this unit as a whole is even more adjusted than they were a year ago. I want to bring up the safety and the way that they were talking about what Mekhi Bear read, as opposed to not necessarily on a blitz, but instinctively saw the center, I believe, dip for a moment, and then he was able just to instinctively attack, and he was the cause of the pile up there on the goal line. You think of the linebackers and what they've learned in another year, but also all those guys together understanding assignments. Is that a perfect example of this group being more well-adjusted in that scheme?
Yeah. People sometimes look too far into like schemes and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
What you want initially, your scheme is it's just a read. You're making a read. You're interpreting how the block looks to you. And then you just go be athletic. And I think that's what you saw. Natural instinct has to take over. It just has to. And really, really good linebackers will just do that. Like, hey, this isn't going to be perfect, but I know what this is. I'm going to make the play. Sorry, coach. You could yell at me and film. And that coach said, hey, good read here. Took off, but I would like to see here. And this gap said, I got blah, 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 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I think the thing that those linebackers have to really be cognizant of this week is they are going to be checked down coverage protection at times. So that running back out of the backfield, you have to know where he is if they want to dump that off or screen game or those kind of things. So they're going to have to really, really quick read it and slide to the ball because Colorado's got some good running backs too. And I could see them moving other people into the backfield to try to take advantage of that as well.
It's going to be interesting. Verse, as always, we appreciate it. Safe travels, my man. Have a good weekend. Look forward to Husker Hangover on Sunday.
Husker Hangover on Sunday will be at 9:30 p.m. This upcoming Sunday because I'll be flying back at 8:25 a.m.
So Husker sobering up.
Yeah, that's a long-ass hangover is what that is.
I'm guessing if it goes the way everybody hopes it goes, still going to be some folks hungover.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Verse.
Hey, bud.
That's Matt Verzal. The 94 team will be honored. I think they'll come out for the tunnel walk.
Yeah.
Think T.O. will be out there?
I do.
Think George Darlington?
I do.
Charlie McBride?
I do.
Charlie McBride, Colorado Buffalo.
Was? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't think he cares.
All right. Mike Schaefer is in the green room. He'll join us next to wrap up the program. Big weekend in so many ways for Nebraska. Schaefer will fill us in next.
Hey, join 1620 The Zone. The email also, it's back, and it's the four-quarter pick'em taking place. And with the email subscription, you got the first crack at it on Monday. Since it's our 25th anniversary, we're giving away $25,000 of prizes. You can win $2,500 a week in the four-quarter pick'em. Go to 1620thezone.com. It's powered by Dr. Justin Makovica with MD West One and Rib Shack. And also, don't forget, while you're at 1620thezone.com to register to win all the family fall fun at Val's Pumpkin Patch.
All right, time to talk to Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. We're a day away.
I know. Hey, so what is something that has not been discussed about this game that you think needs your attention right now on 1620 The Zone?
Wow. Clearly, I think we've discussed this game from a lot of angles, so I don't know that there's a great thing that has not been brought up. This has been talked about, but I continue to wonder what they do with Dante Dowdell. Like, I'm fascinated by that because I think he was the best running back on the field against UTEP. I think he would have put up more than 100 yards had he not fumbled, but he fumbled. So does Matt Rule, who's talked about accountability and talked about how they can't give the ball away, does he have the confidence that the benching last week is what was needed? That you can put Dante Dowdell out there and he's going to be able to give you the running game that you want against Colorado. Like, it's not the biggest storyline by any means, but I'm just fascinated what he's going to do because it seems to me, just off of last week, and of course it was UTEP, that Dante Dowdell gives you a really nice piece against the Colorado team that seems susceptible against a little bit more power running game.
Mm-hmm.
And if the idea is that you want to wear this team out and own the fourth quarter, I think Dante Dowdell gives you that best chance.
Okay, and so with that, Dylan Raiola having a successful night from what I think a lot of us expect the game plan to have a heavy run presence, a successful night for Dylan Raiola looks like what to you, Mike?
Yeah, a couple 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know, if you get more than either of those, obviously great. But, like, the baseline for me in every game this season is if they can get him around 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Like, if you're doing that every week, first of all, you'd have 24 touchdowns and no interceptions. You know, I'm fantastic at math.
That would be really good.
Numbers at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Those are really good. But if you're doing that pretty much every week, you're giving yourself a chance to win with this defense. So I think it starts there. I mean, if you can, you know, like if you can limit the amount of exposure for Dylan Raiola in the sense that you can run the ball well enough and you can pick your spots when to pass, I think that's a critical thing here. And I think he's capable of putting those numbers up. I don't think that's pie in the sky. Now, if you need him to throw for 400 yards to win this game, if you still win, that's great. But clearly the game plan didn't go how you wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he's throwing for 240 to 250, that's exactly in the wheelhouse of how you want this to work.
Hey, there's one thing to say it. There's another to do it. I think you and I talked about this on Saturday during after the UTEP game. The head coach and guys that have spoken this week publicly are very confident. They're not cocky. They're not brash, but they carry themselves as having a ton of confidence. Why do you think that is the case?
I think they feel like they have a good football team. I think they feel like they've had a good football team for a while now. I don't think that they feel like they're the version of the Nebraska team that went 0-4 in November. I think they believe in the defense. They believe in the coaching staff. They believe in their training. I think there's a lot of guys over there that know that the work that they put in as soon as last season ended was built up to the idea that not only do you win games like Saturday, you take care of games like Saturday. You don't walk into it. You don't just happen to be the team that has the most points at the end of the game. You do all of this to win games like Saturday. And I thought Rule's done a really nice job of striking the tone. Like, we get that this is important, but as soon as Saturday's game is over, we're past Colorado. It's on to the next big thing. And I think that's a good mentality for them to have. Like, this needs to be a part of the journey. It's not the destination. And so I think he's done a really nice job striking that tone in the media. And I'm sure he's done a great job of that with the team. And I think that's an important thing because if you make too much of it,
And if you don't win, you let this game beat you over and over and over. And Nebraska can't afford that, regardless of what the result is on that.
I want to throw out these groups, position group wise, when it comes to defensive line, secondary, offensive line, wide receivers, and I'll even throw in the sideline. Nebraska wins tomorrow night. Who has the biggest role?
I think it's the defensive line. I think they control how the outcome of this game goes. I mean, if they're able to get pressure on Shedeur Sanders with 3 or 4 guys, that allows Nebraska to have 7 or 8 in coverage. If they're able to do what it seems like they're going to want to do, which is contain Sanders and not allow him to get into what Gary is pointing, playground football, that's going to help Nebraska. I think if they are able to play how they want, it's through their defensive line, and that will account for Nebraska's success as much as anything on Saturday. So I would put that as one. And then the sidelines is 2. I mean, the coaching has to be good. I mean, frankly, Nebraska lost games last year because the coaching wasn't good, and they were, in a tough spot with a lot of backups in key roles on offense. But they lost games last year because the coaching wasn't where it needed to be. And then Matt Rule knows that, and this is an opportunity in a game against where he's the more experienced, better coach, right? Like, Nebraska should have a big advantage on the sidelines on Saturday night. I'd like to see that play out.
The OC on the other side is Pat Shurmur. The OC on Nebraska's sideline is Marcus Satterfield. I'm not going to ask you to play Pat Shurmur. I'm going to ask you to play Marcus Satterfield, and I'm giving you a guy named Thomas Fedoni. What do you do with him on Saturday night?
I would like to see more Thomas Fedoni working in drags opposite of, Janiron Bonner, working some of those, just trying to put Colorado defenders in space. We saw the tight end was used by North Dakota State. I think if you make those linebackers have to work across the field, you're going to be able to get some opportunities there where you're going to have a step or two to turn what could be a 7-yard pass into a 20-yard play. And so I would like to get Thomas Fedoni in motion that way. And certainly would look for a seam pass or two, because if you can play off of play action and you get the linebackers and the safeties creeping up a little bit, a guy like Fedoni coming off of the line, you could hit in stride and then you let him run. I mean, I don't really need to see any more east-west, swing passes to the tight end at this point in time. And it wasn't his fault. And maybe the play call works a lot better if it's blocked better. But they tried it several times against UTEP. I would put that, away for now and try to get Fedoni vertically a little bit too. But I think he can be a really, useful piece. As we saw with the EA Sports 2025 virtual Huskers on Wednesday night. Thomas Fedoni, 10 catches, 100+ yards,
Take
touchdown.
Take that.
He could be an important piece of this whole thing.
Shafe, I'm a sicko. I keep watching that stuff. I can't help it. With the recruiting weekend that is, we knew it was always going to be a big one. And before we get into what could come out of it, it's one thing to play under the lights of Memorial Stadium against a program that is known, a Power 5 program. But with it being Colorado and with what they have on their own sideline and what they bring, if you can beat them, how impactful of a look is that compared to just another Power 4 team coming to Lincoln to play under the lights?
I think it tells recruits that Nebraska is more than just verbiage. I mean, there's been so much talk about what Matt Rule wants Nebraska to be, and there's been so much talk going back to Mike Riley about getting in on the ground floor of a rocket ship. And Nebraska is a sleeping giant, and blah, 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 blah. It is time to win football games. That is what the 2024 season is about. Colorado is the next step in Nebraska's elevation of bringing their program back basically from the depths of hell. And so it's an important win because it's a rival. It's an important win for a variety of reasons. It's important for the recruits because Deion Sanders is on the other side and the atmosphere is going to be tremendous. And we're having debates about whether the field should be stormed. But more than anything, it is another win. It is the first time you'd be 2-0 since 2016. It is the most important non-conference game on your schedule. I mean, go take care of business. Nobody wants to hear about what you're going to do in the future. The future is now. It is time to win.
Is it flip season? Let's start. Dawson Merritt, flip season?
I think it's flip season, and I like Nebraska's chances to flip Dawson Merritt. I don't think he and his family are going to be at this game Saturday if they weren't strongly considering jumping off of Alabama for Nebraska. I got the sense in the spring The merits are all lined up with Nebraska. It's been Dawson. And obviously, he's the one that's got to go there and play. Dawson, I think, had been pretty enamored with the Wolf position at Alabama, and I think that was a difference maker. If Nebraska can get past that, and you have the family all kind of pushing for him to be a little closer to home, you get an atmosphere like Saturday, they go win a game. I think that could really help for what could be a fast flip. I mean, it's something that if it goes right, it could happen as early as next week. Now, maybe it gets dragged out. Maybe it doesn't happen at all, but I like Nebraska's chances here.
What about Cortez Mills?
Cortez Mills, he's fascinating because you've got all kinds of information about whether OU's in his ear now and he's not going to visit. So we'll start with this. Getting him to Lincoln would be a big first step. Going from there, I think this is a recruitment that can go all the way to signing day. Even if Nebraska does everything they possibly can and puts themselves in the best position, you're still not going to feel good with this kid until you have a signature. So I like Nebraska just getting him to campus, but I think we're a long way away from feeling good about the Huskers making him, part of their future.
Christian Jones is back again this weekend, right?
Yeah, he's back again this weekend, and this is one of those critical games. I mean, when we talk about showing recruits that you're more than just talk, it's a win here. It's a 2-0 start for the first time since Christian Jones was, 9. If I'm doing the math right, 9 or 10 years old.
Yep.
Christian Jones hasn't seen a 2-0 Nebraska since he was 9. He probably didn't even watch Nebraska when he was 9. So when we get all up in arms about in-state kids who are looking at other programs, it's kind of important to acknowledge that they haven't exactly watched good Nebraska football for a while. So a win would do wonders, I think, for Christian Jones.
You've written about it on 24/7, you and Bruncy and BC. It's an impressive list that is going to be here, taking in a primetime game and all the noise that comes with it. We gave you some of the highlighter guys. Who are some other guys, in your opinion, to keep an eye on that may give you a good review this Saturday, and somebody that may join Nebraska as a recruiting class?
2 5-stars that are going to be there. Michael Terry, the third. He's a 2025 recruit. Was just talking with our Texas guy this morning. Nebraska's got a real chance here. Like, the Terrys really like Matt Rule. They really like that program. I think this is, it has long been kind of Oregon, Texas. It's Oregon, Texas, Nebraska. Nebraska has the momentum coming off of that late July visit. I think there's a lot that Matt Rule has done to kind of change how people view Nebraska. And the best thing they might have going for it is people look at it like it's run like an NFL program now. And that is a big thing for recruits. Michael Terry wants to play in the NFL. If Matt Rule can show him and his family that this is a place that you can not only spend your time in college, have a good time, make some NIL money, play in some big football games, but get you prepared for the next level, that's what a lot of these recruits want, and that's a big, big part of that pitch. So keep an eye on him. Jackson Cantwell, I think, is just a huge visitor. 1, because he's 6'7". 2, because I think Nebraska has a real chance here too. His mom's originally from Crete. His dad's one of the best, weight throwers of all time. He's a guy that is a tremendous recruit that is being recruited by everybody in the country, but he's been in Nebraska 4 or 5 times. Got a good relationship with Donovan Raiola. I think that's going to be important down the line too. So he is someone that, I thought he was going to be here this weekend. When he confirmed that he was going to be here, I think it's a huge, huge deal. There's some other guys that are really kind of interesting regionally. The kid out of Oklahoma, Taj Overton, safety. He's a guy that has been up to Nebraska. He's up here at the end of July. I think he's really sort of interested in what the Huskers have going on. He's a 4-star safety. They've got several other 4-stars that are coming in. They have some local kids too. Jace Reynolds and Isaac Jensen, top 2 players, I think, in the class of 2026 locally. If I was to sit down and do my in-state rankings, I would start with Isaac Jensen, and then everybody would follow off of that. So I think it's good that you have him in. And we shouldn't discount the fact that if Nebraska goes and wins on Saturday, they might start picking up recruits for future classes. Like, that's the next vestige of Nebraska's recruiting, is that we don't get to March of the following year and it's like, all right, who's going to be the first commit in the class? It'd be good for Nebraska if they can start adding players early, and then they don't have to do all that work to try to catch up.
Shafe, we're looking forward to it. I know you guys will have wall-to-wall coverage, the recruiting angle, and then the game, of course, on 24/7. I'll see you tomorrow night.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. Enjoy it.
That's Mike Schaefer. Isaac Jensen's Millard South. Jace Reynolds is Elkhorn North. I said 34-21. That's a confident team. I think they will show they are well coached. They have a good game plan. The score to cover is late in the game. But I like Nebraska's chances, man. They are a confident team. There is a reason that they put in certain things to be ready to play tomorrow night. And so I think you'll see it. But this is fun. This is what college football is all about. Your prediction?
34-27. Pick to click, Ramir Johnson.
41-27. Huskers jump out big. Crowd goes nuts. Colorado comes back. It becomes nut cutting time. And Dylan, I know it's going out on a limb, but this will be Dylan's coming out party. Big plays. Everyone's going to be happy. It'll be an orgy in the streets of Lincoln all day Saturday or all night Saturday.
Whoa.
People can be happy.
Dodge Street?
We haven't had an orgy in a long time.
Yeah.
Michigan has one.
They do.
Yes, they do.
But he's on the sideline.
Yes.
Usually when you're having an orgy,
That's
like to
true.
participate.
Real quick hot take I had to throw in there too. Nebraska will get a special teams touchdown and create a special teams turnover.
All right. Enjoy
So much
tomorrow
fun.
night. Enjoy football this weekend, everybody. Live, laugh, and punt. We'll be back to break it all down coming up on Monday morning at 6. Have a great time. Be smart. Boy, it's going to be a bad day for beers in Lincoln. For Jimmy, for Nick, I'm Gary. Crossover's coming up next on 1620 The Zone.